Councilmember Beer. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Martin. Here. Mayor Vatalaus.
Here. And the salute to the flag will be led by Councilmember Beckmeyer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a closed session report?
no reportable action.
Thank you. So we're going on to the special presentations. The first presentation is Cora, Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse, Recognition of Pacifica Police Officer Natalie Walsh, sorry. See, another mistake. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Celeste Mercado, and I'm the manager of Crisis Support Services, and I oversee our hotline and emergency response program, which is collaborating with law enforcement here in San Mateo, the county of San Mateo. CORA is a domestic violence agency and the only one in this county, and we serve about 10,000 our hotline serves about 10,000 calls. From those 10,000, 4,000 of them are referrals from law enforcement. We have various services from counseling, legal, safe house, and advocacy for all of our victims who are going through a difficult time and leaving an abusive partner. This quarter, we're going to be celebrating Officer Walsh, and I'm going to let our next speakers.
Hi, my name is Yaskita Chavla. I'm Cora's ERP specialist. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what Officer of the Quarter is. So every quarter, Cora likes to recognize an officer for going above and beyond and advocating for survivors. Our Cora crisis counselors nominate officers when they demonstrate a high knowledge of domestic violence, they show trauma-informed care, and when officers push for and provide additional support in making that connection between the survivor and Cora. So the interaction between the survivor and the officer is not only impactful for the survivor, but for our Cora crisis counselors as well. So with that being said, this quarter we're recognizing Officer Natalie Walsh, who was nominated twice by 2 separate crisis counselors for Officer of the Quarter. So Vidya, our crisis counselor, will go ahead and tell you why she nominated the officer.
Hi, so I'm Vidya. I'm a crisis counselor at Cora. And I nominated Officer Walsh for her outstanding service and work that she provided and for the survivor, and also getting her connected to services with Cora. So I got the page basically that there was an incident, there was strangulation involved, and it was really severe, and that the victim needed support from the community, and from law enforcement. And I nominated the officer for being effective in, supporting the survivor, and also being quick to connect her with Cora, making sure that the survivor was connected and received services from us. So this is just a small thank you for all of the work that they do.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you for this award, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Oh, any questions? No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. And, we are so lucky to have an agency like Cora in our region, and to have folks like you who are actually connecting people to services. We are in debt and gratitude to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think, weren't you just sworn in?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember going to your event, and your 2 kids, they've gotten bigger. But anyhow, I just wanted to say it's really cool to think someone so new on the force, less than 6 months, I think, that you've been able to, take control and actually have the empathy and sympathy to follow through with the community. And I think that's something we really need to be proud of, and you especially and your family need to be very proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome to the to the PPD, and thanks to Cora for nominating Officer Walsh, and thanks for all you do.
Thanks.
I was going to say the same thing as Mike. I'm quite sure we were just at your installation, and I'm very proud of you and proud that you have the confidence in yourself to make these recommendations. I remember at that event, the chief's comments were largely around the issue of family and how important that is as a core value within PPD, and I think within the city as well. And I think this is a very excellent demonstration of that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say that because I am so new and I'm learning every day, I'm really grateful for the PPD and all the help and support and guidance that they've given me, because every day it's like it's a new challenge, and I'm excited to be here and just happy to keep learning and helping people. And CORE is a great organization, and I'm just really excited for this. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I was just going to also say is, obviously thank you to Officer Wells because she did it, but I think it's also something to say about the leadership and mentorship of the other police officers to actually do it. I know Captain Spanheimer's been here for many years, and it's part of the culture of the department. I know the serve on the side of the cars, it truly means what it says, to serve. And I just want to thank all the police officers, because it's not just the leadership, it's your peers also that show the example, and you for picking it up and taking it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Should we?
Just want to
All right, then. Okay, the next presentation is the San Mateo County Library's annual report. Julie.
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Julie Fink-Lang, and I am the branch manager of the Pacifica Libraries. Good evening, Mayor Vaterlaus and members of the City Council. I am pleased to present to you the San Mateo County Library's annual report for the 18-19 fiscal year, and Sarah has the packets that she will give to you. I gotta do this. When people think of the San Mateo County Libraries, we want them to see an inclusive place where everyone is welcome to explore, create, and learn. Our commitment to the community is constantly expanding through innovative practices and resources. We are thrilled to announce that San Mateo County Libraries are now fine-free, ensuring that every member of the community has free access to library books and resources. We also enhanced the library user experience with our new automatic renewal technology. Library users can now enjoy extra time with library materials without worrying about due dates or fines. And if you're wondering if that picture looks familiar, that is the ukulele class at the Sanchez Library, and that's one of our more enthusiastic participants.
Came from a luau.
To promote inclusion and equity in our communities, we partnered with other Bay Area libraries to expand services and reduce barriers for people with disabilities. Staff have been trained on disability awareness, our collections and programs have been expanded, and new resources such as inclusive literacy and sensory kits for families are now available to the community. Here's another familiar face. We enjoyed connecting with the community at almost 350 outreach events last year, including Fog Fest, the Rockaway Beach Tree Lighting, Cops and Kids, Eco Fest, and many more. This year, we're pleased to announce that we will be collaborating again with the Pacifica Beach Coalition on a new Book to Action program featuring the book Perfect Day for an Albatross. So we all look forward to learning about albatrosses this year, myself especially. We are proud to help bridge the digital divide by providing free access to technology and internet connectivity, and by building skills on how to use these tools to improve equity in our communities. Our libraries offer Wi-Fi hotspots and laptops available for checkout free of charge, as well as laptop vending machines, digital media stations, and drop-in tech assistance at both libraries. Here's some of our system-wide stats, which show that interest in digital materials and maker programs, as well as technology access, continues to be very strong. In this season, here's some more stats, and I particularly want to call out our volunteer hours, because in this season of gratitude, we're most grateful to our outstanding San Mateo County Library volunteers who spent over 25,000 hours serving our communities. Here in Pacifica, we continue to see strong usage of both of our library branches. Our popular hands-on learning programs, including paint nights, after-school STEAM, computer coach, ukulele workshops, Saturday drop-in crafts, and more, attracted over 26,000 attendees. As always, the Pacifica School District has been our valuable partner in collaborating with us to engage more than 4,600 children in the summer learning program. The Pacifica School District was also a lead partner in our Student Success Initiative, which ensured that every child in a Pacifica public school now has a library card. The San Mateo County Libraries are currently engaging our staff and our communities in a celebration of gratitude. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all who patronize and support our libraries. In particular, our wonderful Friends of the Library. Pictured here are some members of the Pacifica Friends of the Library preparing to serve It's ice cream to Pacifica's families at our summer learning party. Their generous support of the Friends pays for many of our programs, including our weekly STEAM hands-on learning programs, our weekly after-school program that features snacks, games, crafts, and homework help, monthly family movie nights, books for our middle school and family book clubs, and so much more. In addition to supporting the community, the Friends also support our staff by funding high-quality team building and training experiences. We are deeply grateful to them for their support. Please help the Friends support our libraries by doing some of your holiday shopping at the next Friends Big Book Sale, December 6th and 7th, in the Sharp Park Library Community Room. I am deeply grateful to the library volunteers who contribute over 1,200 hours of service to the Pacifica Libraries, the Library Advisory Committee for tirelessly working towards achieving a new Sharp Park Library and a renovated Sanchez Library, as well as the Pacifica Library Foundation, the Pacifica City Council, Pacifica City staff, the Pacifica School District, and the entire Pacifica community for your support of your libraries. Finally, I want to thank my incredible Pacifica Library staff for their dedication to serving this wonderful community. Thank you and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Questions, anyone? We have a member of the public who'd like to comment on this. That's not usually, but should we just go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, Bridget?
Don't go away though, Julie, because I have,
Okay.
We'll let
I'll be
her
right there.
talk and then,
Thank you. I didn't know whether you could do that or not, and nobody back there did either. So I just figured I'd try it like I do a lot of things. Anyway, my comment about this was thank you to the library. Thank you for these things that they're doing. They're wonderful resources. It's absolutely something our community should 100% back. But the problem is the way we have designed our libraries are not as accessible to the people who really need them as they should be. We have campuses of children everywhere that could use these resources at their schoolyard site, like in combination with the Boys and Girls Club of America or something. As we have designed our libraries today, they are tombs. I've been in them. Most cities have very modern libraries, and those are also tombs. This idea is an old idea. I bless the people who are keeping it alive, because it is a part of our past that we have to preserve. You know, it's incredibly valuable. But to disperse this much energy, money, and time into buildings and situations that are not really getting to the people that need them the most, you know, the impoverished people, or the common, everyday, middle-class Americans. We need culture brought to every campus, and it would eliminate traffic. So there you got it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and we'll bring it back to council.
I'll go first. Oh, sorry, was there?
Deirdre pushed her button first.
Thanks, Julie. Bridget, I absolutely disagree with you. I love our libraries, old and new. We utilize Sanchez all the time, especially now that I have children. We rent movies, we get books. Just to be in the presence of that many books is very special for children who don't get books. So I think it's really important. I think we spend a lot of time at Half Moon Bay Library. I have to agree that is such a cool library. So thanks for everything you do. Thanks to all of the associations that help you, and as well as your staff and all the activities that you put on. We're grateful for you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mary, then Sue.
Julie, thank you for the presentation. It was so good. I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate how much time you spend coming to the Pacifica Collaborative. So I feel like I personally know a lot about the library because of that. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that. And then, so you talked about every child in the school district gets a library card. And how does that work? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Or?
So that's a new collaborative called the Student Success Initiative. I believe it was piloted in Napa. And so we brought it to San Mateo County, and I think Pacifica was one of the first communities to complete it. We're working with the school district. We were able to provide a library card to every child who's registered in a Pacifica public school.
Wow, that's great. Thanks again, Julie.
Thank you, and thank you for the collaborative meetings. They're a great resource.
Sue and then Mike.
Thanks, Julie. As a school district employee who works in one of the libraries on the campuses that are not that numerous, but a few, more than we have libraries in our town, I really want to acknowledge the intense partnership that we have with San Mateo County Library. Might surprise people to know that the libraries in our schools, largely supported by parent fundraising, have on the order of 16,000 to 18,000 volumes per library, which still isn't really enough, because I'm forever borrowing stacks of books to supplement and to provide students with the next chapter book in a series that we just don't have it, that kind of thing. Supplementing research and getting biographies on famous Americans that we just don't have on our shelves. Another note is the Ortega Library, which is closest to Sanchez. There was a long time, and I think it's definitely still the case, where that collection is larger than the children's collection at the Sanchez Library. But the great news is that the collaboration allows our students to have access to all those resources. One other note, I really appreciate the Nourishing the Community piece. I know that's not something that is widely done in Pacifica, but I'm very proud that the San Mateo County Library is partnering to make sure that students receive lunches during the summer when they're not receiving them at school. So thanks.
Thank you.
Mike.
Hi, I'd like to thank you, Julie. I'm on the JPA Library Board, so I kind of like know more about how the intricacies work. And in response to the speaker, The libraries are the only public service that really serves all ages, from newborns all the way up to seniors. We're seeing newborns come for story time, music time, picking out books, they check them out, while seniors go there to read the paper, socialize, they provide community rooms, they have book signings, they have in libraries up and down the peninsula that are able to have the facilities, the room, the community rooms, et cetera. They provide concerts for people there. They provide, I know several of them have trivia nights, contests for people to come out. You can go there and you can get a hotspot free so you have internet access at home. You can borrow laptops so you can be able to fill out job applications at the library. One of the biggest, I was told, one of the biggest losses was when we cut the hours of the libraries here, the resource center could no longer send people down to the library to fill out job applications. Even McDonald's, you have to fill it out online now. So the libraries provide, they're not tombs, okay? To think like that, you're in a tomb, because you're not taking and looking at the reality of what it is. Library is from when Benjamin Franklin invented them, whenever in the 1700s. They provide equalization. Our libraries all have access to all the community college libraries. You can borrow from CSM's library, you can borrow from Menlo Park, Daly City, whatever. You have access to the entire peninsula. So libraries are living, vibrant parts of this community for all ages. Whether you're rich or poor, middle class, upper, lower, disabled, or whatever, you have access to libraries in Pacifica. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I've been on many, many of those committees, and I also disagree with the speaker. The libraries are so important to communities, and if you've ever gone down to Half Moon Bay, you'll see it's not a tomb. It's very busy and bustling all the time. It's an incredible library, and we hope to one day have a 21st century library in Pacifica. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The next presentation is the Pacifica Resource Center Annual Report. Anita?
Hello. Thank you so much for the time to give you all an update about what PRC has been doing. Pacifica Resource Center has been in the community for over 45 years now. Our mission is to support the economic security of Pacifica families and individuals by providing a safety net of food. We should change that to groceries, housing assistance, and other critical services. And our vision is to ensure that every Pacifican's needs are met so that each member of our community has the opportunity to thrive. You all have this handout, and there's handouts in the back if anybody wants to follow along. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is that we are still working towards our strategic goals. Overall, those goals are to maintain our current services, which is providing services to 1 in 10 Pacifica families. The second is to advocate for more resources to come into our community, primarily around homeless services, but it could be any resource that we see is lacking. And then the third goal overall is to expand our services so that we are able to serve more people, basically making it easier for folks to access our services because of the high cost of living in this area. So in terms of goal 1, in terms of maintaining our services, we provided 200 tons of groceries that benefited over 31,000 Pacifica children, adults, and seniors over this last year. So it's 31,000 even though we have more than 37,000 people in Pacifica. It's because folks come back for food, right? So that's why it says benefiting 31,000 folks, because they come back repeatedly. We prevented homelessness and sheltered 118 Pacificans, prepared taxes for 205 households, which generated $305,000 in refunds and saved taxpayers $46,000 in tax preparation fees. We also help folks over the holidays and seasonal programs, so 155 Pacifica youth received
grade-specific school supplies that help them prepare for the new year, as well as provided happy holidays to 205 children through our holiday gift program and Thanksgiving assistance to 411 Pacificans. We also provided 500 showers to homeless Pacificans, helping them prepare for work, job interviews, and housing search. So in terms of our grocery programs, I just wanted to mention that anybody who needs food can get food at PRC. We have daily drop-in, weekly drop-in programs, monthly produce mobile, monthly family harvest, pantry visits, walk-in pantry access for folks who are unhoused and don't have a regular place to cook food, as well as a monthly delivery program. Starting on December 13th, we'll be doing a grocery rescue and delivery program up in the northeast part of town, focused on Sunset Ridge specifically, at least twice a month, and then we're looking for another location to service the other folks in that area because they aren't always coming into town to get those services. So this will be taking food that normally would be tossed and repurposing them, providing it to the families that need it, as well as adding some staple foods to it. So it's not just grocery rescue, it's also staple foods. So that'll be starting December 13th. In terms of homeless prevention, we provide rental and mortgage assistance for folks who get behind on their rent or mortgage. We can provide move-in and deposit expenses, as well as utility assistance for folks to stay in their homes. So for those of you who don't know, if your power is shut off or your water is shut off after it's been shut off for 3 days, they can red tag, the city can red tag your home, and those folks will become homeless. So by providing utility assistance, it helps people stay in their homes. We also provide housing, or we will be providing housing-centered case management, focusing on folks' ideal housing situation. While we're starting this specifically for folks who are unhoused, it will benefit anybody who is struggling to stay housed so that we can develop a plan to help them stay housed if they're struggling to pay their rent. And then also part of this is referral to diversion services and shelter services. So in the county, the way that folks access shelter has shifted a bit, and there's a focus on diversion, keeping people out of shelter. If we can divert people from shelter, then they tend to become and stay housed more quickly. So PRC is that entry point for folks in town who are struggling to stay housed. In terms of our economic security services, in addition to our tax services, we provide match savings programs. So there's two main ones. One is a tax refund saver program. Folks can save $300 of their tax refund, and we'll match it $300 over the course of a year. The second is an emergency savings program. This is where folks save $300 over the course of a year. We match it with gift cards for the things that they would normally spend that money so that they can get into the habit of savings so that after a year they have $300 in savings, which research has shown if you have access to $300 that's in a revolving account, then you will be more stable, you can stay in your home. It's amazing that $300 can be the difference, but we want folks to borrow from themselves instead of borrowing from payday lenders. In the 2020 tax season, we plan to continue our focus on savings, and the first 50 folks who save money from their tax refund and split it into a savings account and something else will be able to receive a $20 gift card as an incentive for folks to save. In addition, we'll have funds available for up to 10 tax savers to save the $300. And then, as I mentioned, I think at the last meeting, we'll be bringing in the e-bus to provide tax services in 3 locations in Pacifica. So on February 8th, we're looking for a location in Manor. March 15th, we'll be at the St. Andrew New Life Christian Church parking lot. And on April 11th, we're hoping to be someplace in the Fairmont area. So we're still looking for those 2 locations, but the plan is to be there and actually provide tax services on site to folks who live in the area. In 2020, our goal is 260 tax returns, up from the 205 that we did last year. Then in terms of our homeless programs, last year we provided 559 showers to 45 individuals. And as of June 30th, 11 of those folks are housed. 8 are connected to the Homeless Outreach Team program to provide additional resources, including 2 who have permanent supportive housing vouchers, and 1 who has a housing disability assistance program voucher. Those 2 voucher programs, they just need to find a place who will accept those vouchers and they will be housed. So they're actively searching for housing. and it will be subsidized so that folks can continue to stay housed. One of those folks is connected to it's VASH, it's the Veteran Affairs Supportive Housing Voucher, very similar. Again, just need to find a place for somebody to take that voucher, and that family will also be housed. 12 of those folks, 12 of the 45 remain unhoused in Pacifica, and 13 of those folks have moved on or become housed but haven't connected to services at PRC or anywhere else in the county, so we're really not sure where those folks are. So in terms of our second goal, to advocate and monitor resources, part of this is expanding and piloting services, homeless services, and advocating for more county and other resources for our community. I don't have a copy with me, I can't read it. Sorry. In the 2019 one-day homeless count, one of our goals was, of course, to document those. Thank you so much, Sarah. One of the things we were wanted to do, and make sure that we were doing, was documenting how many folks needed resources in Pacifica. So the one-day homeless count, which happens every 2 years, is extremely important. In 2019, we had the second highest count of 116, second to Redwood City, which represents 12.87% of the county's unhoused. We also, over this last year, assisted 173 unhoused Pacificans. Those were from 110 households, and of those, 6 received financial assistance for rent, deposit, and/or moving costs. Some of those will overlap with the folks who used our shower program, but we are moving towards helping people become housed as well. Of the 72 folks that we referred, 72 out of our 110 unhoused families were referred to the diversion program. And of those, 12 were diverted, so they were unhoused but became housed pretty much immediately. 7 entered into shelter, and the remaining 53 were still unhoused as of June 30th. I don't have specific details where those folks are. Some have moved on, just like the folks who used our shower program or became housed but didn't give us any feedback about that. We also helped to develop the Unhoused in Pacific Task Force, which can be leveraged for broader community support and county support. And then PRC also expects to receive a county contract to provide homeless outreach services and housing-centered case management in Pacifica. With all of that advocacy and monitoring, we also generated $1.3 million in goods and services for Pacifica as in like the food that we received, the groceries we received from Second Harvest, housing assistance, transportation assistance, a variety of things that all pull together to provide those resources to Pacifica. The third goal was to expand services. So one of the things that we did was we hired a consultant to help us raise awareness about PRC and our services, specifically focusing on Pacific schools and higher income families. One of the things that I just want to mention, I know I've shared this before, is that in San Mateo County, a family of 4 who earns under $129,000 a year is considered low income. A single person, $90,000 or less, is considered low income. For that reason, we are trying to expand how we provide our services so more folks can get access to those resources before they lose their home, become homeless, spend all of their savings. We're really looking at ways to make it easier for folks to access our services. So some of the things that we've done over this last year is created an online form for folks to go on, tell us what they need, somewhat anonymously because they're sending an email to us, so that we can then reach out to them and let them know what services they're actually eligible for, and in some ways convince them to come in for those resources and support. We created an outreach flyer that targets community members who aren't currently using our services, making it more simplified. We do offer a lot of different and varied services, so we wanted to be more specific or more general so people knew to come in. We also updated our website to provide more services. Some of the things that I think often happens is folks think that by telling people what we offer, that people will ask for it. And we want that to happen. For that reason, we've put out on our website all of the services that we provide, and then people can review it on their own. And then we created a page to share our stories of success. It's the We Are PRC page. Anybody who would like to share how PRC has helped them, or if having a PRC would have helped them when they were struggling, that's the place that we want to highlight, so that folks can see that, we're just like you, we need help too, and we've needed it in the past. And as I mentioned, we'll be launching our grocery deliveries in the northeast part of town starting in December. Again, this is another way to just try to make it easier for folks to access our services. And then lastly, just some other little tidbits of information. Our board is currently 13 members. We are losing 2 folks at the end of this year, and our goal is to have 15 board members. So we are recruiting 4 additional members for 2020. So if you know anybody who might be interested in joining our board, please send them our way. We currently have 9 staff, which are the equivalent of 8.5 full-time equivalents. And all of our program positions are full, but we are looking for a part-time development staff person. And in the new year, we will be recruiting for 2 homeless outreach specialists to help us with our new county contract. And then in terms of programs, as I mentioned, we are in the process of getting a homeless outreach contract with the county, and that would be in Pacifica and along the coast. It really is to increase the capacity to provide services to folks who are unhoused. And then we are also in the process of negotiating a contract for Census 2020 outreach, just to make sure that all the folks in our community are counted, because for those that don't know, those numbers really do mean something in terms of getting resources for our local community. And then lastly, as I mentioned, implementing and expanding our grocery rescue and delivery program in the northeast part of Pacifica. Our goal would be, depending on how that goes, we may expand it throughout the city. But we are very excited to be using the refrigerated van that we received from the Office of Sustainability to do exactly that, accessing grocery rescue items and getting it out to people who need it. And of course, if anybody wants to become a tax volunteer or a volunteer in general, please give us a call, or if you know anybody who needs our help, our number is 650-738-7470. Marina or I are available to answer any other questions outside of this, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have now.
First, we have a member of the public who'd like to speak. Bridget? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. 3 minutes too? Or you want to start lowering it to 2 minutes, or? Yeah. Just let me know. This is an experiment, so just in case everybody in the audience is starting to get annoyed, I'm trying to annoy you. I'm trying to show you that if people act legally and within their rights and duty to do, and come in here and tell you what you think, which we should be doing anyway, we will take up so much of your time.
This is about the resource
We could take up so much of your time. Anyway, okay, I will
It's not
get...
oral communication.
Yes,
It's about the resource center.
The resource center. I do have something to say about the resource center, and it's very similar to what I said about the libraries. And no, I do not hate libraries. I love libraries. I go to the library. I'm just saying that we have the resource problem, and we're putting money into that. We're putting a lot of money into that. There's been a $2.5 billion released from the state of California to address homelessness. So there are funds to work with. This is why the Resource Center is asking to expand, and it should be expanded. I'm just saying, in the light of the emergency, the humanitarian crisis that we face as a society today, 97% of the people in these vans and cars lived here their whole life. We're not talking about transients from anywhere else. We're talking about Pacificans that pay taxes here, that obey the law, that work full-time, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs. They deserve services. They could have those services. You want libraries open more? Hell yeah, let's do it. You want them to have better services? Yes, do it. But do it in unison, think differently about it. If every library was open 24/7 and there were
Resource
lockers
center.
for people, and there
Resource
were
center,
showers for people, and there was a kitchen where people could, groceries, the resource center is giving away groceries to homeless people. They don't have kitchens. Garbage? Oh yeah, they look like they're dirty, don't they? They don't have garbage services. So if you want to put $60 million into a library, I'm for it. If you want to put more money into the resource center, yes, the public is all for it. But we want showers, lockers, kitchen facilities, showers. These people have no place to go to the bathroom. And you want to spend more money on things to make the rest of society comfortable, more comfortable, hopefully. It's absolute bullshit, and it has gone long enough. This woman, who is the mayor, who is about to shut me up, wouldn't even be the mayor if the United States of America's election...
You're done. You're done, Bridget. Please. Bridget, you're done.
She is now the new...
You're done, Chief.
San Mateo County Realty Association. Get it? So why can't we get help with homelessness? Why can't we get help
Want to get up?
for evictions?
No.
It's because people like her are in power everywhere,
gavel.
including the White House.
Gavel.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be back. There's bunches and bunches of items tonight. I got all night long.
Okay. We're bringing it back to council. Would anyone like to make comments?
Hi, Anita. You've been working double time, haven't you? Thank you for all of your hard work. I see you out there everywhere and really, really appreciate you. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about one thing that the Resource Center has done for me and has taught me about financial health. And so when my rent went up $1,000 and I went in seeking some help, that's what I received was information about how to have financial health and what a great service that is. And so just know that there's services for everybody at the Resource Center. And I'm really glad you mentioned, the low income ranges, because it's really important, because I don't think people know that. I was just wondering if you might have some data. I don't know if you have it with you, but I know you shared data at the task force meeting the other night. Is there any little pieces you can share with us tonight? And if you don't have it ready, that's
I
okay
do.
too.
Oh, there it goes. So we actually were part of the county's motorhome survey that they did countywide, and we were able to do 22 surveys with folks who were in motorhomes in Pacifica specifically. It included one family with a child under 18. There were 33 individuals in those RVs or motorhomes, and generally 73% of them slept in their motorhome every night. The average time in their motorhome was 14 months. The shortest time was 1 week. The longest was 4 years. 59% of them have only lived in Pacifica in their motorhome, and 41% of them lived in Pacifica before they moved into their motorhome. Primarily the reason that they were living in motorhomes is that it was 41% of them was because of the high cost of rent, and then second was family issues. Folks were living with family and then lost their housing and were able to eke together enough to get a motorhome. 64% of them felt that were only planning to stay in the motorhome temporarily. Their goal is permanent housing in a brick and mortar, and 14% of those folks wanted to continue to live in their motorhome but in an RV park. And then another 14% were, I guess, what you would call, living that lifestyle. They wanted to continue to live in their motorhome and travel. They weren't interested in a regular place to stay. So those are the folks who were passing through, staying for a while, leaving, generally can't tell you how long they were staying. And then 59% of the folks were working. Their average wage or average monthly income was, I think, $2,500 a month. And I have been doing an impromptu count every night when I leave from work, and on average, there's anywhere between 29 motorhomes and 35 motorhomes. So when you think about the fact that we were able to interview 22 of them, we got a good number of the folks who are here regularly. Of course, they're on wheels so they can leave. And so there's new folk potentially coming in and folks leaving. So we can't really speak to that, although we did track the last 4 digits of people's license plate numbers so that we could determine longevity. That's not something I'm checking as I'm checking around. I'm just driving through town and counting them. Primarily Oceana, Palmetto, and Esplanade, those are the areas that I'm checking, so I'm not checking the south part of town, but I feel like that's the area where most people are staying.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think, the more information we can get out, the better, and the more informed decisions we can make. So thank you so much for everything. And
Absolutely.
Thanks, Anita, for all you do for the city of Pacifica. And I hope, Bridget, didn't rain on your parade, because nobody feels that way, I'm sure. I just wanted to mention, for those folks who may want to help but don't have the time, you can always donate to the Pacifica Resource Center. I attended an event yesterday that the Pacifica Runners held, and all the proceeds went to the Pacifica Resource Center, so it was a turkey trot, and that was a fun event. And also, I think Safeway is running a deal, $10 grocery bag donation also. So if you don't have the time, but you have the money, please do that.
Grocery Outlet was doing something.
Oh, and Grocery Outlet, too.
Yeah.
So, right on.
Grocery Outlet was doing
Great.
something.
Anita, thank you very much for everything you're doing. It's amazing to see how this organization has grown over the years in terms of your work with the county and the sources of income and establishing your own 501c3. It's really impressive, and I'm grateful to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Again, thank you to Anita. I know you are the conductor of the orchestra of human services on the coast, because I think the Resource Center is the lead agency in Pacifica, right?
Yes.
And I think, are you on the coast or just Pacifica?
Just Pacifica, except regarding the homeless outreach services that we'll be starting to provide. It'll be from Pacifica through Half Moon Bay, and the census work is also between Pacifica and El Granada.
Okay. Well, thank you for all you're doing, and keep conducting the orchestra.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've appreciated the Resource Center for years and years, and all the things that you do for our community. And I think all of us thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar. We have item 3 pulled by the public, and possibly item 1, but it says item 1 and 8 on the card. Okay, item 3, so would someone like to make a motion, or does someone want to pull anything off the consent?
I would move that we approve items 1, 2, and 4 of the consent agenda as
I'll
stated.
second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. So Bridget, item number 3.
I approve a point, just like I said, but I do have something to say about that, and it's disbursements, correct?
No, this is about roof replacement.
But it's basically money that the city wants to release for the roof replacement, right?
Yes.
And I'm the public, and that's the public, and as far as I know, I don't know anything about the roof deal. I don't know who the construction company that you want to give the money to is, and I am just saying, as well as many other people, Deirdre, I am not alone. I can guarantee you that. I'm doing this tonight to show how much one person can disrupt this meeting. And I'm not staying long, guys, because I have a date. So I'm only doing this because I want to show that we do have a right to be here. We have a right to participate, but we can be here even if we don't participate. And that if 10 of me were here, you'd be tied up for a long time and you wouldn't be able to spend the money the way you want to. Now, we have an environmental emergency going on. We need to start rethinking how we spend our money. In order to do that, we need to establish people's assemblies where the public actually gets to put time and effort and into understanding the priorities and the problems that we face as a society, including the roads and the roofs and everything else in practicality that we have to deal with. And how can we do it the best way, the most sustainable way, in an order that makes sense with the crisis that is impending right now in the environment. Small steps have gotten us here. We're going backward. We need to change everything fast. And that may include changing how we do our roofs and who gets paid to do our roofs and who works on our roofs and how fair their employment is and do they have a place to live that's affordable, that sort of stuff. And I know it sounds really unfamiliar to you, but these are the problems of the people today. It's not a let them eat cake situation. No, they can't buy houses. They don't have kitchens or bathrooms, and now you want to ban the shell around them. It's unconscionable, and I will be back on December 9th, and I am going to bring some friends. So think about it. We're not letting you ban RVs from the streets of Pacifica. It's not happening. We got to rethink this.
Thank you. Item 3.
I move that we release the roof contract for the subsidized daycare and Parkview Circle.
I second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. So we're on to oral communications. We have 2 cards. We have Tiger Jazz Big Stick and Lynn Adams.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. I did have a bit about the 11-12 meeting regarding some of the RV study session stuff, particularly regarding data. And taking a step back, everybody has a bias. I have a bias. My personal bias is toward those more susceptible to vulnerability, and as such, when the RV conversation began in our community, at first I was thinking to myself, okay, these are things that personally I don't see a big problem with, until I had a conversation with Chris Porter, who runs Recology, and she was telling me about how some of her workers pick up feces from time to time, and how this might be connected to RVs, and then a light bulb clicked in my head. Oh, okay, there's a thing I could put my finger on and say, there's a tangible health and safety concern, and now I have a more neutral placement in my perception of the RV conversation. So I felt like there was some data that could have been helpful at the study session on the 12th. And some of that data were things like, what's the up-to-date today count of the RVs? And I appreciate, like, velocity in physics, it's kind of a snapshot of the situation at any given time. But if a part of the perception is, well, it's a continuously growing problem and getting bigger and we're getting an influx, having that snapshot from time to time, especially on the occasion in which we're discussing whether or not to bring ordinance, would have been very helpful for me. At some point there was a question about Berkeley's ordinance, which when I was reading that in the staff report, I thought it was a great approach. I would have loved to have heard more about the mechanics of that, and I think it could have informed maybe what we had requested staff to bring back if that had been there. The numbers, I know there were 777 calls leading to action, but of those, I'm not sure how many were from the same phone number. When Nextdoor is cited, I'm on Nextdoor at any given point, it might be 1,000 comments, but all from the same, 30 people, 50 people, me being one of them, but I don't have that number, so I don't know. And so perception being a thing, but we're talking about a concrete ordinance, it would be good if we had more data in place. As a member of the public, if we're doing an ordinance, I'd feel better about it if I know exactly what we're talking about rather than beliefs and perceptions. A note on the UP Task Force meeting, it was very powerful to have facts about the homeless situation right in front of us. It was powerful to have face-to-face dialogue rather than talking into a box. And I don't know if it was just a perceptionary bias or a reality, but it seemed like, at least as the people who were there, the conversation on Nextdoor seemed more respectful the next day after that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn, followed by Bridget Duffy.
I just wanted to come in and thank you all for supporting the Pacific Beach Coalition. And I wanted to thank the general public of Pacifica for all the support. It's truly obvious that the plastic bags that we found on the beach have greatly diminished since we had the ban. The styrofoam has become, we get broken pieces of packaging styrofoam, but we don't have as much styrofoam as we used to have. And now I've seen an increase in the paper straws that we find on the beach, which are not harmful to the turtles or the animals. But I'm finding very few plastic straws. So I have to say, I want to commend the city of Pacifica, because if the people didn't want this, if you guys didn't agree to do this, we would still have those bad things. I wanted to kind of do a State of the Union for the Pacific Beach Coalition. We're not through the end of the year yet, but we have reached 25,000 volunteers this year who have picked up over 28,000 pounds of trash and recycles. So more than a pound a person at our cleanups. We've removed 22 tons of green waste or weeds along the coastal trail mostly. And 193,000 cigarette butts have been sent in to be recycled and picked up off of the beaches and the streets of our coast. The Pacific Beach Coalition, in addition to hosting 7 cleanups a month, bringing in 1,000 volunteers for Give Back, and students, hundreds and hundreds of students who come in during the week to do cleanups. We also hired 3 naturalists who go to every weekly cleanup and teach the volunteers about it. They have little things to see, so they could see some of the critters and some of the, like a baleen. So it's really awesome. So the naturalists have been teaching these volunteers now and sending them back. Since July, they have reached so many people. Also, the Pacific Beach Coalition has a volunteer, her name is Alejandra, who got a grant through San Mateo County to go to our businesses and help them learn what the ordinances are for the plastic-free Pacifica, and has been well received by the businesses. And so this initiative is launched, and she's seeking to reach every one of the 100-some businesses that serve drinks and food and/or food. So that's been really highly welcomed by the businesses. Also, I wanted to announce that coming up in 2020, February 7th, we will have our surf movie, and Earth Day will be on April 25th. So please mark your calendars and join us and celebrate Albatross. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Bridget, before Bridget comes up, I'm going to read something under oral communications. Pursuant to the Pacifica Municipal Code Title II, Chapter 1, Section 2-1.118, any person making impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks, or who becomes boisterous while addressing the council, shall be called to order by the presiding officer, and if such conduct continues, may, at the direction of the presiding officer, be ordered barred from further attendance before the council during the meeting. Thank you. Bridget.
Duly noted. Anyway, on a slightly more upbeat note, I thank you guys for all the work you've done. We're heading into the holidays. I hope everybody has a nice holiday. I wrote a newsletter about homelessness, and I hope as you're eating your Thanksgiving turkeys in your homes that have mortgages, and all the luxuries that you afford yourselves by having the jobs that you have, which are technically being paid for by the taxpayers that don't have homes, and they don't have turkeys, and they're lucky if they have a car. Sometimes all they have is a tent. And then the cities hire the police to take their tents and to take their sleeping bags and to demolish their cardboard boxes. They're called sweeps. I don't think we have them here. And that's one thing that makes me proud of being in Pacifica. I have known somebody who was leaving in their car and they were getting rousted pretty often. But I don't know if the cops are actually taking sleeping bags and tents. If they are, I think that's definitely something that you all should definitely look into, because as a city, as a people, as a society, we cannot support that. These people have everything they can do during the course of their days to make sure that they have a place that will keep them warm at night. 157 people in California died last year only because they were homeless. And this year, it could quite possibly be more, because cities like yourself are not choosing to stop the evictions that are currently going on in mass. Tens of thousands of people are being evicted before Christmas this year. And cities like ours had the option to protect those people till January 1st, but did not take the option. So, in short, I will be back, and I do believe I will be able to bring more people with me. And I have a date tonight, but I'm not going to plan anything on the 9th. So I just want you to know that I'm sick of kind of asking and begging, and so are a lot of people. So we're going to make you uncomfortable. And, yeah, I'm annoying. Did you ever see trains, planes, and automobiles? Right? The big fat guy. He was annoying. But there are people that like me. And there are a lot of people that feel exactly like I feel. And we want to take our country back. And we're going to take our country back. And part of it is housing the unhoused this winter.
Thank you, Bridget. Moving on to council communications. Sorry, I wasn't watching the lights. Deirdre.
I will not be made to feel bad for serving the people by you, Bridget, or anyone. We volunteered to run for election, and nobody wants anybody to be unhoused. We're all working on it, and what you're hearing up here is democracy at its best. So while I may not be happy with some of the results, I'm happy that we are coming together in a democratic fashion and making those things happen. So thank you to my fellow council members. So I attended the Peninsula Clean Energy Board meeting, which is always very exciting and informative. I cannot do any of these meetings much justice because of the amount of intelligence that is in the room, if you will, there. But one of the things that came out of it is the discussion around the PG&E bankruptcy. And the discussion was specifically around a community-owned utility. So those conversations are actually really happening, and more to come, but it's a serious consideration. And myself as an individual, not as a board member or a council member, signed on to a letter supporting the mayor of San Jose in the effort to make PG&E a community-owned utility. More to come. I attended the open space meeting last week, and a bunch of really great things are happening, but one of the most exciting things, in my opinion, is that the GGNRA Conservancy is now 100% carbon neutral, and I think that's just a pretty impressive statistic from such an interesting organization, and I'm just here to say it can be done. So set your sights high, and they will be met if you all come together. I attended the Unhoused and Pacifica Task Force, and I agree with you, Tiger Jazz, that it was, the discussion was definitely different at the table and the next day. If I were to provide one piece of constructive feedback, it would have been if in any way we could have ensured that there were at least 1 or 2 unhoused or representatives of the vehicularly housed population at each table, it might have gone a little bit better. Not to say that it didn't go well. I thought it went well, but the conversation would have been that much more, I think, informative for all. I don't think some of our discussions got to the heart of the personal side for everyone at the table, not just aesthetics, because I felt like a lot of it was around aesthetics. But I'm very appreciative of all the work that the task force has done. They have put in a lot of hours, and I want to acknowledge them for that. I attended the United Against Hate event that we had. It was a talk on why inclusive language matters at the Sanchez Art Center. Cindy Abbott so graciously offered the space to us, and we had a great turnout. City Clerk Coffee was there, and that was pretty cool. So it was a really great and lively discussion, very informative, and we also had the opportunity to continue making our Pacifica peace flag. So there were a bunch of us coloring and things together. So that was just something special. So thanks to everyone who participated in that, and I think it was a really great week. I have a couple pictures that I'll send to City Manager and City Clerk from that event. I also mentioned earlier that I attended the Pacifica Runners Club Turkey Trot yesterday, benefiting the Pacifica Resource Center. 100% of the proceeds went to the Pacifica Resource Center. It was a great day. It was a great turnout. And a couple years ago, I had met at the time, the mayor of Belmont, who was just starting to get a few runners together. And I said, hey, you should talk to our runners club here. And next thing you know, they're hooked up, and they've got a runners club, we've got a runners club, and now everybody's attending each other's events. So it was really cool to see him and his family there running over at Terra Nova. It was a 4-mile relay. So it was cool. There were kids from age 5 and up there. And then finally, I just wanted to also remind everyone, like Lynn Adams did, about the Earth Day on April 25th and the Surf Movie fundraiser, that's March 27th? February 27th? February 7th. I'll get it right one time. And similar to the Pacifica Resource Center, the Pacific Beach Coalition loves volunteers. We love action. We love your time and your energy, but also they accept donations, and you can do that online as well. PacificBeachCoalition.org. That's it.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out and being civically engaged. I want to say it every time because I truly mean it. It's really important that you're here. So I attended the Home for All, I was on a panel for the Home for All panel discussion, and we were actually talking about the importance of engaging community in outreach for events like this, and how I got to speak about the Pacifica Collaborative and how important it is to have face-to-face relationships with people in our community, and then use those relationships to do outreach for important events such as Home for All and important community discussions. So I was just really proud to be able to talk about the Pacifica Collaborative, and the relationships that we form there, they kind of trickle out into our community, and so we all get to know each other and we can support each other's work, and so it was really awesome to be able to talk about that. I attended the Democrats' breakfast, so I want to thank Cindy Abbott and our city manager, Kevin Woodhouse, for presenting about the library. It was really interesting for me to be in that space. I was interacting with people who I probably wouldn't usually do on a regular basis, so it was good for me to be there. I appreciated being invited to come, so thank you so much. I also attended the emergency preparedness meeting, and we spoke at length about the PG&E public safety shutoffs and how important the communication between the city and the community was, and how that went, and how it could go better. We also learned a little bit about the stoplights at Reina Del Mar and at Fassler, because they actually have a backup battery, but that battery only runs for so long and then it goes out. And our city actually doesn't have access to get to that battery. It has to come from a Caltrans electrician. So our city did the very best that they could to get out there and to mediate traffic. And so I really appreciate all the work that you did out there. Thank you, Chief, and for all of your staff for getting out there and doing what we could. I think those little things are really important to learn about. Like, oh, the traffic lights are out. Why isn't anyone out there? Well, there's reasons for these things. And so the more information that I can share with you, then I will definitely do that. We also talked a little bit about, in moving forward, trying to engage our CERT members a little bit more when there's going to be, upcoming public safety shutoffs, if there are, like how we can engage folks who are already trained in CERT to help out. So that was actually a really interesting conversation, and I was happy to be there. I already thanked Anita for the work that she's been doing so hard for the UP Task Force meeting, and I want to thank the task force for the job that they did at the community meeting. I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch, so I want to also thank Pacific Coast Television for being there and for filming so that the community can actually see and learn from that. So if you haven't watched it, please do. There's a lot of information that was shared from the panel. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, Mike.
I was also at the Pacifica Dems and saw the presentation from Cindy and the city manager about the library. And just so Mary knows, you don't need to be invited. You can come the third Saturday of every month. I also, along with Councilmember Beckmeyer, was at the economic development, and we kind of talked about the speakers we were going to have next year and just some general stuff and work plan for next year. Also attended the commute.org because I'm on the board there as a representative from Pacifica. And again, being it's the end of the year, a lot of these things are kind of like talking about what they've done the past year, what they might want to do next year. And I actually forgot to bring the website, but San Mateo Samtrans, and I think the lady mentioned it when she was here, about they're doing a survey to try to look at Samtrans in the future and in the integration of Caltrain, et cetera. I also, with Councilmember Vaterlaus, attended the bid meeting, which was the first one I've been to, and the bid meeting is the Business Improvement District for the hotels, where if you stay at the hotel in Pacifica, they tack on $1 or $2 a night, and then they use that to market. And they were talking about different aspects of marketing Pacifica. So that's pretty much it. Oh, and the Chamber of Commerce is having their tree lighting ceremony Sunday, December 8th at 4 p.m. And I would encourage anybody to go there, because last year they had like 3,000 people show up. They do run a cable car shuttle from Roberts Road and I think Cabrillo School.
In front of the community center.
Oh, in front of the community center and Roberts Road. And it's a good time, a lot of activities for kids. There's music, there's food trucks, and everybody seems to have a really good time. So that's 4 o'clock on December 8th, Sunday.
Sue?
I attended the Democrats meeting and did enjoy that presentation very much. I've heard that library information many times, and it was so comprehensive and so well delivered. So I'm hopeful that we can get that on a video at some point so that it'll be more accessible for folks who aren't able to attend the meetings. I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting on the 19th, and we had an interesting format this time. We had committee members from some time ago join us. We had a little gathering and shared ideas, and it's sort of a bittersweet moment when you realize there have been a lot of folks with a lot of really good ideas, and not all of them have come to fruition. So I like to say slow change is lasting change. and I feel like we're making decisions that will be workable for Pacifica. I'm very encouraged about our Sharp Park specific plan and the work that's gone on this year with our general plan update and all of that, and the way that that will pave the way for some of the things to come. I didn't attend the UP task force meeting due to a previous family event, but I am grateful again that it was videotaped so that I could avail myself of that. And there's something coming up that I won't be able to attend because I'll be out of town this weekend. It's happening next weekend, actually, on Sunday the 1st. There's a hike that is at Pedro Point Headlands, and this is a trail, a connection of all of the trails that will lead over to Devil's Slide. So there's an actual way to walk all the way through Pacifica and up and over. And there's another meeting coming up that I'm doing everything I can to attend on December 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Community Center, where the trail, it's the Pedro Point Headlands Trail Community Meeting, and the design alternatives that are being looked at for the trails going over. So if anyone's interested in that, I think it's going to be a very informative meeting.
Thank you. I did most of what everyone else did. Task force I went to have, the Democrats. I met with 2 people today who are from Faith in Action regarding the motorhome ordinance. I wanted to talk about the tree lighting. We do have ponies, pony rides, snow, and crafts for kids, and it is a great time. So, and it would be best to park outside because we are expanding it this year to use the entire parking lot. So it's going to be bigger with booths, and there's a lot going on. So we're making it bigger so that there's more space. I went to the Business Improvement District also, and that's all I have to say today.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
Director Perez, when is the holiday lighting and the elf market? I wanted to make sure to tell everybody. Saturday and Sunday? Okay, Friday and Saturday. Okay, thank you.
Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th. The tree lighting at the community center is Friday the 6th, and the elf market's Saturday.
Thank you.
Right?
Friday night and Saturday.
Yeah, I did meet with 2 people from Home for All today regarding the RV ordinance.
Home for all?
Yeah, that's who met with me.
Oh, okay. Staff communications.
Thank you, Mayor Vaterlas, council members, Kevin Woodhouse, city manager. I actually was going to also chime in about the city's holiday festivities at the community center on Friday and Saturday night, and if Director Perez has additional information he'd like to provide, he's welcome to come out after I finish my comments, but thank you for mentioning that. So it's a weekend of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night events, which is always exciting in the holiday season in Pacifica. Most of the council members mentioned the library presentation at the Democrats Club meeting. I was pleased to participate in that and help present it along with Library Advisory Committee Chair Cindy Abbott. And for the sake of the public, I just wanted to mention that an incredible amount of information about the library project can be found at pacificalibraryproject.com. So that's the online resource with a lot of information about that project. I have 2 important announcements that I want to make. One is that as the council remembers, a while back, the council approved our local coastal plan consultation draft to be submitted to Coastal Commission staff for consultation review. Their review period, 30 working days, ended on Friday, and we received their comment letter on Friday and some supporting information. So their comment letter, which includes a letter, attachments, and annotated comments in the draft document, has been posted now, and a new public review period is kicked off that will last for 39 total days, and I believe it was this evening that notice went out to all the folks that had, pre-signed up, and we'll be continuing to push out that information. So The purpose of that is that the public can now review the consultation draft LCP approved by the council, and they can at the same time review the Coastal Commission staff comments that were received. Again, those came in late Friday, and staff has gotten those posted today. In addition, as a reminder, comments on the Sharp Park specific plan existing conditions report continue to be accepted through December 8th. And the good news is we received more than or about 100 people have taken the online survey that's part of that information. The next item that I wanted to mention is something new to Pacifica, and that is during this holiday time, which is a time when many employees naturally take vacation and service requests from the public are lower than usual, the city is going to be doing a holiday closure period. And all essential services and contractual services and all the normal services normal essential services will be functioning, but the non-essential and non-contractual services for an additional 5 days will close down to the public. So I'm announcing it tonight. We're going to be doing pushing it out through all of our channels about the closure, and it'll be during the period from December 23rd through January 1st, with normal services resuming on January 2nd. As I mentioned, there will be employees standby for emergencies. Obviously, the main city hall and certain department phone numbers will have after-hours greetings indicating city hall is closed, but we'll also provide special phone number in the event the public has an urgent need for timely assistance, and essential service personnel will be on standby for emergencies. So I wanted to make sure to announce that this evening. That completes my comments.
Thank you. Moving on to public hearing number 5, consideration of an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of cannabis activity permit CAP-11-18 for the establishment of a cannabis retail operation within an existing building and at 1726 Palmetto.
Good evening, council members. My name is Helen Gannon, assistant planner, who brought this project forward with the Planning Commission. The item before you is the 6th cannabis activity permit to be considered by the city under the city's cannabis business program enacted in 2017. The proposed business was approved by the Planning Commission by a 3-2 vote on October 7th, but was appealed 10 days later. The application before you would be for a medicinal and adult use sales cannabis retail operation at 1726 Palmetto Avenue. The operation would be located within the Sharp Park Overlay District and would be the 3rd approved cannabis retail operation within this overlay district. If approved tonight, this would be the final retail operation allowable under the city's zoning. The appellant identifies several bases for his objection to the Planning Commission's approval. The first is that the business is located in a residential neighborhood. Though the site currently contains one single-family residential building, the parcel is zoned for and intended for commercial use. Additionally, both the city's general plan and local coastal plan call for commercial land uses along Palmetto Avenue in the West Sharp Park neighborhood west of Highway 1 as the primary land use, with residential uses as a secondary conditional use above ground floor commercial uses. Staff acknowledges a number of non-conforming residential uses exist along the Palmetto Avenue. However, the city's land use plans call for these to be phased out and replaced with conforming commercial or mixed-use land uses. The proposed cannabis retail operation would remove one such non-conforming residential use and commence a commercial use on the site consistent with the city's land use regulations. The appellant's second basis is that the proposed business will reduce housing in the community. The proposed business is located on a site that is zoned for neighborhood commercial uses. Commencement of this retail cannabis business would be consistent with the intended use of the subject property in the city's land use regulations and would eliminate a non-conforming residential use. As explained already, housing is not intended as a primary use in this commercial location, and there is no evidence that elimination of the non-conforming residential use would adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. The third basis is that the proposed business will increase traffic and congestion. The appellant does not provide any evidence or any further information to support his contention. However, the proposed business meets or exceeds all of the off-street parking requirements and will not generate sufficient vehicle trips to cause a significant impact on traffic and congestion in the project area. The trip generation report can be found in attachment F. Additionally, the Planning Commission conditioned the permit approval so that the applicant must provide an additional 2 parking spaces for employees on site, in addition to the already provided 5 parking spaces. The Planning Commission did not raise any such concerns about the amount of traffic generated by the proposed business and was able to make the required finding that the proposed cannabis operation does not create any parking or traffic concerns based on its size and having the option of delivery services. Appeal issue number 4 is that the business is in the wrong location. As previously discussed, the proposed business is located on a site that is specifically zoned for commercial use and is located in the cannabis operation Shark Park Overlay District. The proposed cannabis operation is consistent with both the land use and zoning regulations applicable to the subject site. Lastly, the City Council affirmatively determined that up to 3 cannabis activity permits were permissible within the Sharp Park Overlay District when it adopted ordinance number 844, and this site was included. The appellant's 5th and final appeal basis is that the proposed business is located too close to a school. While it is not stated in the appeal, staff interprets the appellant's statement to relate to Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School along Palmetto Avenue. The City Council created the Sharp Park Overlay Zone to identify parcels which comply with all applicable locational limitations contained in the municipal code. The subject site is consistent with all locational limitations set forth in the city's code, which are also consistent with state law requirements regarding distance from schools. The site is not located within 600 feet of a school or youth center, nor is within 200 feet of a daycare center. Ingrid B. Lacey Middle School is located approximately 628 feet away from the proposed cannabis operation outside of the 600-foot buffer, and also lies outside of the required notification area for a public hearing. Per council policy, staff sends required notification to properties located within 500 feet of a project site, even though state law only requires 300 feet. The applicant also placed notification of the application for a cannabis activity permit in the window of the existing structure back in July of this year, visible for any pedestrian walking by the site. At the Planning Commission hearing on October 7th, the Commission took time to consider all of these issues and did not find any of them to warrant a denial of the permit. Because of these reasons, staff recommends denying the appeal and upholding the Planning Commission's approval of Cannabis Activity Permit CAP-11-18. Staff is available to answer any questions of its analysis of the project or the appeal, and we are also joined by Planning Commissioner John Niblin, who can comment on the Planning Commission's deliberation and action on the permit.
Questions? I have questions. You just said that they have parking spaces, and do any of the other dispensaries have dedicated parking spaces?
Yes, the senior planner, Christian Murdoch. The off-street parking provided by the other permitted cannabis retail operations, it varies depending on the site. The location at 2270 Palmetto, known as the Fog Center, it has off-street parking.
Okay.
2110 Palmetto does not. Well, it has a limited number, but not enough spaces for all of the operation. And then those permitted in Rockaway Beach, one of them, 403 Dundee, has off-street parking. The others rely primarily on the central parking lot within Rockaway Beach.
Thank you. And this zoning for the green zone, approximately when was that? 3 years ago that we did this zoning?
I believe in 2017.
and I ask this every time, but Chief, there were formerly 5 or 6, it's hard to pin them down, dispensaries on Palmetto. Were there any issues with the dispensaries on Palmetto?
There were a few issues, minor issues, complaints of smoking outside the businesses, minor complaints like that. But again, as I spoke before the Planning Commission, I reminded them that, as I remind this body as well, that was a time when we had illegal, unpermitted business, those businesses taking place. We did not have an ordinance in place. We have a very robust ordinance in place at this point that gives us the opportunity to take action against these businesses if they act irresponsibly. And to this point, with one business being open for a year now, we've had 0 complaints or problems, and one just over a couple of, second been open for just a couple of months, we've had 0 complaints and 0 problems.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, just, although it looks like a single-family home, that, according to the staff report, if I read it correctly, it was always C1, correct? And that basically the single-family home was was being used as a single-family home, so therefore it was not a permitted use?
So you're asking that the site has always been zoned for C1, but is being used as a commercial?
Right, it was being,
Correct.
one of the letter in the appeal was that it was a single-family home, but what I just wanted to clarify, according to the staff report, it was zoned C1.
Correct.
So it was zoned commercial and being used as a single-family home, so therefore it was a non-conforming use. By
Correct.
having it as cannabis, it is now going to be what it's zoned for.
Correct. We would be eliminating that non-conforming use of the residential home.
Right. And then the state requirements for number of feet away from a school, Mr. Murdoch, you said was 300? Or did you say that?
600, for the notification is 300 feet. Distance from a cannabis operation is 600 feet, and this operation is located 628 feet from the middle school.
Right, but I just wanted to clarify, the state law requires how many feet from a school?
600 feet.
And to clarify, the state does allow a local jurisdiction to revise those buffers, but the default, in the absence of any action to change the buffer, is 600 feet under state law.
Okay, so our code is meeting the state minimum. And, okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Mary?
I have a question about the neighborhood context map. There's a daycare that's listed within the proximity. Can you tell me about that?
Package page?
You know, I don't see a package page number on it. I'm sorry. It's
In the fold-out?
yeah, in the fold out.
After page 265.
After page 265, there's this bunch of maps, and this one is the neighborhood context map. And sorry, I just noticed this morning, so. But there is a daycare, it says daycare. Can you tell me about that?
Sure, I don't think we know a ton about it, but it's a well-known daycare located sort of on the central stretch of Palmetto Avenue. That daycare figured centrally in the original zoning work that the city was doing. The default buffer under state law for all of the sensitive land use categories is 600 feet. And because that was right in the middle of Palmetto, the council decided, in order to expand the opportunity for zoning in Sharp Park, to reduce the buffer around daycares to 200 feet.
And so then the daycare at the other end of Palmetto, I was thinking about when the Cannabis Wellness Center was across the street from that one daycare center. Is that, I don't understand.
Well, the Cannabis Wellness Center, when it was selling cannabis,
Right.
was unlawful.
Right. I understand that. I'm curious about the zoning for that daycare.
So the zoning, I believe, is C1. If you
Okay.
offer a moment, we can look up the zoning, but to our knowledge, it is lawfully permitted. the way that the city's ordinance reads is the
Yeah.
buffer applies to land uses, those sensitive land uses in effect at the time the cannabis business is approved.
Okay.
So if another sensitive use were to move in within a buffer after it's been permitted, the cannabis business would be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
This is sort of not relation to the appeal, but did you mention the option of delivery services? Did you mention that this has the option of delivery services?
Yes,
And
correct.
do they have to have a parking space for their delivery vehicle?
Yes, they have,
That's why
they've
Alright.
designated one behind the fence where the ADA parking space is, that
Okay.
they'll be.
So there'll be one ADA there and one designated delivery?
Correct. It's going to be
parking spot.
behind a
Right.
gated fence, but
Yeah.
they have designated a spot for that delivery service
Okay.
vehicle. That's separate from the 5 parking spaces provided for the actual business.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, the appellant, is the appellant present? Okay, I think that we got a letter from the appellant, is that correct? And he's not able to be here today and didn't send anyone. But we do have one card from the public. So we have Colleen Golden. Okay.
How about the applicant?
Oh,
I was gonna
okay, so the applicant, I'm sorry, Colleen, the applicant will go first before the public.
I think, isn't the appellant this gentleman we got the email from, Paul?
Yes.
I think his comments from his email should at least be read into the record.
They are part of the record.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be read into the record. It is part of the record.
So it will show up like in the
Yes.
minutes and stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Because I just, you know.
Good evening, council members. My name is Crystal Matter. I represent Adam Zollinger in his application for a cannabis activity permit. I'm joined this evening by Adam and Tim Fitzpatrick. Tim is the construction manager for the project and, like Adam, was born and raised in Pacifica. Adam secured a location within the approved overlay district and began this process nearly 2 years ago. He is one of the only applicants that has never operated an illegal dispensary. He waited for a lawful opportunity to open a business in the city. Now, after meeting and exceeding all requirements and receiving the approval of the Planning Commission, he comes before you requesting that you deny Mr. Bradshaw's appeal. As identified by Assistant Planner Gannon, we request that you deny Mr. Bradshaw's appeal in its entirety because the proposed location is zoned for commercial use and not residential use. The licensed traffic engineer hired to study the impact of the proposed business in this location determined there would be no increased congestion by opening this business. Additionally, we are proposing a delivery service, which we believe would also reduce traffic at the proposed location. The proposed location is not in the wrong location. It is within the overlay district that was approved approximately 3 years ago. And the proposed location by law is not too close to a school. The proposed location is outside the 600-foot buffer zone set by the state. And the distance of the proposed location to IBL not only complies with state law, it also falls outside the required notice area for public hearing. After Adam shares his comments, we're prepared to answer any question that the council members have or any concerns that may be raised by the public. We understand there is oftentimes a lot of fear and misinformation associated with these kinds of businesses, and we're happy to stick around. I've even provided my phone number, and I've responded to a couple emails from people basically saying we're an open book. Adam.
Hi, my name's Adam Zollinger. Just a little background for you guys about me. I was actually born and raised in Sharp Park. My family still currently resides in Sharp Park. Both of my parents owned businesses in Pacifica for many years. My dad still owns a chiropractic business in Pacific Manor. This was an opportunity for me to follow in their footsteps and open a business in Pacifica. We've put a lot of time into this, as well as the city. We appreciate all your guys' time in making sure we met and exceeded all of the ordinance requirements. We really just hope that we get the fair opportunity to open a safe and secure business here in Sharp Park. We care, just like my mother cares completely about this community a lot. She's actually works for the, she volunteers all of her time for the Historical Society and was just voted vice president of the Historical Society. So just like her, you know, we care about the community. I just want an opportunity to follow in their footsteps and open a business here. Thank you.
See anything? Okay.
Okay, now the member of the community, Colleen Golden.
Good evening. Thanks for having me speak. Public speaking is not my strong suit, so I'm going to read to you instead. The proposed cannabis retail operation, CB1 Coastside, located at the Red House on Palmetto, is not appropriate due to its location. First, the cannabis retail operation is 331 steps, my steps, from IBL Middle School. I understand the applicant for the cannabis retail operation has paperwork stating it's 600 feet away from IBL, but from where did they measure? With the cannabis operation only 331 of my strides from corner to corner, this is well within the range of students walking to school. Next, SB 420 explicitly states that it does not authorize the smoking of marijuana in or within 1,000 feet of grounds of a school, recreation center, or youth center unless the medical use occurs within a residence. Walking past the other two dispensaries on Palmetto, it is clear that this law will be broken. Do we want our city police dealing with this crime? Their time and expertise is better well spent. The cannabis retail operation is not outside the 1,000 feet. Also, directly across from the front door of the cannabis retail operation is a heavily used student bus stop. The bus stop which stops there is the number 19 Samtrans. The bus stop sign number 19 site is number 19 IBL School. Thus, a school bus stop is directly across the street. We do not have school buses for general education students in Pacifica. Samtrans is their school bus. Many students use this bus stop after school, after sports practices, and after school activities. Drive by and you'll see them hanging out looking directly at the proposed cannabis club. According to law, which was already stated by Helen, or no, not Helen, sorry, someone on this side. According to law, the city can create its own policies regarding dispensaries, recognizing the fact that both high school and middle school students are well within reasonable distance of the cannabis operation. And then I'll do my final one. Oh, finally, the activity permit, our cannabis activity permit, CAP 1118, is based on an incorrect map. My property is listed as a vacant lot. It's not. My house is there. My address is 98 Carmel Avenue. Looking at the map provided to you, it looks as though the apartment building does not have neighbors on the northwest side. It does, me. There is a vacant lot behind my property. The map has lumped me in with this. My house is there, my backyard's there. My wife and I bought our property in 1998. The approval was based on false evidence, and so what else is incorrect on the map? There's 3 parking spaces, not 5. So I don't know what else on the map's not there. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll bring it, seeing no one else, we'll bring it back to council for deliberations. Mike?
Staff, could you, for the question from the public, can you explain how the 600 feet was measured? I know it was in the staff report, but just for the public there.
Yes, I used the county portal, the county GIS system, using their measuring tools, and you're able to actually click and draw and get that estimate.
Okay, so that you measure from where to where on the property?
So I measured from the corner of the subject parcel, 1726 Palmetto, to the very edge corner of the parcel where IBL Middle School is.
And that was 628 feet according to the staff report?
Correct, according to the measuring tool from the county's GIS system.
Okay. And then I know the public mentioned a Senate bill, was it 4? I think about no smoking within 1,000 feet of a school. Could the applicant explain how they plan on enforcing that provision? And is the chief of police familiar with that provision, or?
Well, there is, first of all, the answer is twofold to that. The first one is there is no smoking or consumption of any cannabis products by ordinance allowed in any of our businesses. If there were to be anybody smoking directly outside the business, it would be incumbent upon the owners of the business, or the employees of the business, to either call them out on that behavior or to contact the police department if they needed assistance with that.
Are you familiar with the law that was cited by the public, or is the city attorney familiar with that law? What was the number? Senate Bill?
Yeah. Yes, and I think the way the chief explained how that would be enforced is how the city would enforce that law.
Okay, so is the applicant ready, how they would enforce that? I mean, is you said in your application, in your statements from the minutes, that you were going to take and have security on duty. Will they also be outside to tell people not to smoke there?
Council member, our security plan in our application identifies that we will have security personnel inside the premises. There is no on-site consumption at all. However, if a person is seen consuming it, then they would be told to leave the premises, that you can't consume on-site, and if they refuse to leave, then we'd call the police department.
Okay, so you plan on calling the police also if you see them in front?
Absolutely. There's no on-site consumption allowed at all.
Okay, but on-site would be your walls, not in front. So in front, you would also enforce that?
I don't think I follow. Are you talking about on the dispensary property or on public property?
No, on the sidewalk in front of the dispensary. Chief, you look like you want to say something.
Perhaps we can nip a little bit of this in the bud, if you will.
What did you just say?
Nip it in the bud.
Oh, okay.
There is no.
I'm not hearing real good.
There is no consumption of a cannabis product. For lack of a better term, you cannot walk down the street any public place, period, in the state of California and smoke cannabis.
Okay.
1,000 feet from a school, understandable, but in California, in a public place, you cannot walk down the street. You can smoke a cigarette in most places, but you can't smoke cannabis.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you. In looking at the minutes, and given the concerns that that are being raised in the paper, and I know it's going to be on our agenda, I think in January, I would like to consider adding a condition that there's no vaping products sold. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not, but in the minutes, the applicant said that they would be willing to comply with any local requirements, and it's on page 12 of the minutes of the commission.
What page of the packet?
Oh, I don't know the page of the packet. My computer doesn't work that way.
Okay. Oh, here.
Page 12 of the minutes of the planning commission.
2217.
I think if the council is interested in regulating vaping products, that should be a separate ordinance that would apply to all the cannabis dispensaries.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. Thank you.
Well, I have no problem with that, but it doesn't, if it's going to be discussed in January, if I remember correctly.
And if it's discussed in January and we adopt an ordinance that would prohibit vaping, then this dispensary would be subject to it, just as all the other dispensaries would be subject to it.
We can do it in January, or we can do it then. Okay.
Thank you, Councilman O'Neill. I appreciate you bringing that up, and that was obviously one of my concerns. I will say, for my own, thank you to the Planning Commission for all the work you did on this. I appreciate it. It's pretty obvious to me that this application is within all the legal limits, and so there really isn't any reason for me to dispute that. But I will say a couple of things to you directly, and that is it is very close to IBL, and I know that folks at IBL are very concerned about that. And it's been my experience with the other cannabis merchants in town that they are very willing and able to work with our community and work directly with perhaps the people at the schools and maybe create a relationship with them so that they feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more safe, because that's how things work in our community, right? We get to know each other and then we trust each other. And so that, I think, is the most important part, because it is really close by and there is a bus stop across the street. And so I hope that you're really conscious about that and you do everything you can to keep the social norms in check so that they don't think about cannabis on the way to school, right? Because we don't want that to happen. We know that none of the products that you're going to be selling are going to be getting into the hands of these kids. We know that because the ordinance is so tight and everything is created that way. So it's my hopes that all of those things will happen, and thanks for being here tonight.
Deirdre. Some of my points were already addressed. Colleen, really good point about the bus stop. I didn't think about it. But I did think about that location and whether or not it could have been a convenience store. Would that have been a place where a convenience store could have opened up? Under the...
Yes, I believe retail,
right. Okay.
basic commercial uses, professional services, barber shops.
Okay. I think about it in terms of like maybe
Restaurants,
not so big as a 7-Eleven, but something similar to a convenience store could have opened up there and would most likely bring in a lot more traffic, would definitely bring in children, and would most likely sell alcohol. Those types of stores are so much more of a worry to me than these stores. I couldn't even get into the lit without showing my driver's license around the corner here, which I know that these middle schoolers are never going to get into this place. They may eye it up, but they will not get into this place. But they can go into 7-Elevens. They can go into any types of Sun Valley markets or convenience stores. And as a non-drinker for 20-something years, that bothers me more. The levels of alcoholism I see, the levels of underage drinking I see, the levels of waste I see, especially down in Park Mall, which is the area where I live. Those little bottles kind of littered everywhere. It makes me wonder who's drinking them. So I know that's not going to be happening at this location, so I feel better about it being a cannabis operation with the levels of security than I do about it becoming a convenience store. I actually spend a lot of time at the building next door, which one of my best friends lives. And when I asked my friend, which would you rather, their response was, I'm much more concerned about other things in this neighborhood than I am about this place turning into a cannabis operation. So I do suggest that you team up with an organization called Pacifica Prevention Partnership, and that you also join I think they're called the San Mateo County Cannabis Coalition. You're probably already involved with them, but start bouncing ideas off each other. How can you give back, and what kind of advocacy can you give back to the community? It starts really at home, the education. So I support the denial of this appeal. Is that correct? Yeah. And thanks for the report. Nice work.
Mike?
First, I wanted to see if Commissioner Diblin had any thoughts from the commission.
Well, thank you. I know the meeting's gone on a while, so I won't go at length. I think everybody's kind of hit the high points. I mean, we did have a very far-ranging conversation about it, so this was not a hurried process, in my opinion. And the high points were really around concentration of these businesses, and I think our perspective, or at least the perspective of the majority, was that we were acting in sort of clear conformity with what the with what the city council had sort of incorporated into the ordinance that we were acting under. With respect to the distance, we spent an awful lot of time talking about distance from IBL and from the bus stop that was referenced, and again, recognize that lines in some sense are a little arbitrary, but they ultimately get set, and we applied the distance and buffer that was in the ordinance. And And then we spent some time talking about parking as well, and that's sort of reflected in the minutes in the staff report. It wasn't a unanimous decision, obviously, but I do think it was very fully and comprehensively dealt with by the commission.
Thank you.
And I would say that I do agree with a lot of the points that the appellant made, but unfortunately, the rules are the rules, and they are over the 600 feet, and they've met all the other code requirements, so I would have to vote to deny the appeal also.
Sue Beckmeyer.
I just have a question about the hours of operation. That was mentioned in the staff report. I was actually going to ask you first, Commissioner Niblin.
Sure. The hours of operation, I'm actually not recalling now exactly what the...
I think it said 9 o'clock. I'm just actually not so much the specifics from you, but
Sure.
just that was discussed at the Planning Commission, and I believe the applicant had some, and staff jump in too.
Sure. My recollection of the, and I can speak for myself and my own concerns about it, were really kind of tied to parking. You know, I wasn't really so much concerned about hours of operation per se, recognizing that what they were requesting by way of hours of operation were pretty consistent with the hours of operation for other similar businesses in the same area. I think we were at that point really focused on parking and sort of the notion that maybe an earlier stop might free up parking that might in the community that might otherwise be taken up by employees. I think that's really where I was going in my concerns, and you know, some of my colleagues that may have had concerns about hours of operation that were different from that, but that's kind of what I was focused on.
And so with regard to that, the staff's assessment is that the amount of parking that's incorporated with this proposal is sufficient to address that.
Correct. They're actually providing one additional space than would be required based on the square footage of the proposed business. Based on that square footage, they would actually only be required to provide 4 parking spaces. They are providing 5. And considering some of the concerns of the planning commissioners, we and the commissioners had decided to add a condition of approval to provide 2 additional spaces specifically for employees, so that when people are coming home in the evenings, those parking spaces aren't taken up by employees of the business.
Okay, thank you. And I noted in the staff report that it seemed like it was opening at 9, so
Correct.
during a time when there wouldn't be as much traffic with the bus stop concern that was raised. I'd like to echo Councilmember Martin's comments about working with the Pacifica Prevention Partnership and availing and supplying all resources that you can to that kind of partnership and operation in our town. I think it's very efficient and working well with the other operators, and I would certainly like to see that happen. And I'm finished.
Just one.
Yeah.
I just have one thing that I did mention to a few people, and I thank the people who are opposed also, because everyone has a right to their opinion, and thank you. But also, children go every day into grocery stores. They go right past liquor, which is illegal for them, cigarettes, which are illegal, and no one says a word about that. So they walk past Winter's Tavern and the new brewery. So I don't think that walking past or standing at a bus stop is going to allow them entry into a dispensary. They're very tight about entry. They have security. None of those other places do. So those are my comments.
Can I just say one more thing? You know, it's really kind of weird for me to be up here because I am in prevention, right? And so I want to make sure the public understands that it really is about the trust that we create in our community. And so please, you know, collaborate with as many people as you can and build the trust and just know that that's really where it's at, so.
Someone ready?
Somebody.
Thank you.
What? So some,
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion.
okay.
I'll make a motion to,
Attachment A.
what's that, attachment A? Can I
Attachment
just
A.
read it from the public hearings thing, proposed action? I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution, including the attachment A, to deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission's approval of cannabis activity permit, CAP-11-18, and finding the project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you.
Adios. No, I have a new button here, and I don't know what it's for. Yeah. It's never... Hey, Sarah.
Don't push it, you like that.
It's the... Hey, Sarah, what's this new button here for?
Okay,
Oh, you need some,
moving on.
you not some medicine? Some more water?
No, yeah, actually, I'll have water. I was thinking we'll get another Diet Coke.
The next item is the 2020 Recology of the Coast Rate Adjustment.
Oh, no, that was from before. I don't.
Mayor Vadalos, members of the Pacifica City Council. My name is Lorenzo Hines. I'm the Assistant City Manager, and I'm here to present the 2020 Recology of the Coast Rate Adjustment for our public hearing. The recommended action is that we move that the City Council adopt a resolution confirming the rate adjustment of 2.75% plus $1 per month for each residential account, or 1.7% for each commercial account per Recology of the Coast application for the period of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. I'll give you a little background. In February 2010, the City of Pacifica entered into a franchise agreement with Recology of the Coast. We amended that agreement in October 2016, and the amendment runs through December 31st, 2022. The agreement, the franchise agreement generally grants Recology either exclusive rights or non-exclusive rights, depending on the type of waste. But basically, they have rights to collect solid waste and targeted recyclable materials. Their franchise agreement allows Recology to submit an annual rate increase. That rate increase can either be cost-based or index-based. The rate increase before you is index-based. And the city received their submittal and has reviewed the operational rate adjustment request of 2.75%. And as I mentioned, this is an index-based rate pursuant to Section 11.03 of the agreement. Essentially, what we see here are increases in costs based on CPI index increases. And the agreement calls for Recology to apply the increases in a number of indexes to their cost. And it's a very ugly spreadsheet that is sent to me multi-tabbed, and And so I've reviewed that spreadsheet to make sure that the right indices are being used and confirm the number. On other years, there's a cost-based adjustment, and that's when we bring in another outside entity to actually go through Recology's proposal, because again, it's cost-based and not indice-based. In November 2018, so let me sort of bifurcate this situation, we have an operational request of 2.75%. But we have an additional rate increase request. And so back in November 2018, Council adopted a resolution confirming 2.75% for 2019 for the period January 2019 through December 2019. However, during this meeting, prior to council action, the city manager clarified for the record that Recology was still negotiating with their recyclables processors, Green Waste Recovery, about the impact of China's recent policy change called the National Sword, which impacts recycling markets. The city manager further clarified that those impacts were not factored into the 2019 rate adjustment, and depending on the results of the negotiations, Recology may seek future rate adjustments depending on how the marketplace pans out. To give you a little background on the National Sword, in 2018, China implemented the National Sword policy, which bans the import of 24 recyclable commodities, increases enforcement, and limits contamination levels for imported bales of plastic and mixed paper. Since California exports an estimated 60 to 80% of the recyclables generated in California, this has significant implications for California's waste management system. At the time of the 2019 rate application, Recology was operating under a signed agreement with Green Waste Recovery in San Jose, guaranteeing them in income a revenue of $35 a ton for clean recyclable materials. That agreement expired in September 2018. In the subsequent months, because of the policy, Recology of the Coast, in conjunction with other local Recology locations, negotiated with Green Waste Recovery to formulate a contract that was agreeable to all involved. However, the agreement essentially, instead of Recology being guaranteed a revenue, they would now have to pay essentially $19.40 a ton due to the change in policy for the Chinese National Sword. So let me be clear. They were making $35 a ton, and now they're paying $19.40 a ton. And so this is a reversal of $54.40 per ton. And so we calculate that out. In previous years, Recology had recycling income of over $200,000, but that recycling income is now a loss. And so we calculate that loss to total $386,805. And so what Recology proposes to do is split that loss with the ratepayers. And so the ratepayers would absorb $193,403, and the rest, and the Recology would would absorb $193,403. So they would basically split. This equates to $1 per month charge for each residential account and 1.7% increase for the commercial accounts. For example, a 20-gallon cart would increase from $23.66 a month to $25.31 a month. So Recology is requesting the rate period number 11 rate modification include the adjustment for the recyclables processing costs in addition to the operational request of 2.75%. As far as the process for rate setting, In accordance with the settlement between the city, Recology, and Lionel MD, public notice was sent out on October 8th, more than 45 days prior to this public hearing, to all 11,226 customers liable for payment of the proposed fee increase. As of 5 o'clock on November 20th, the city had received 15 protest letters, including opposition or indicating opposition to the proposed rate increase. As of 5 o'clock today, actually as of right now, we have received 19 protest letters, so our 15 grew to 19. In order for the increase to be denied, a majority protest against the rate would have to exist. So the city would have to receive protests greater than 50% of the customers liable for payment, so it's basically 50% plus one. That equates to 5,614 customers. We have thus received only 19 protests. So we are within the boundaries of accepting this rate increase as far as the ratepayers are concerned, because we have not received the requisite amount of protest. So at tonight's public hearing, individuals will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed rate increase. And at the conclusion of the public hearing, the city clerk and I will complete the tabulation of all protests received, including those received during this public hearing. And I would like to say that Recology of the Coast continues to meet the conditions of the franchise agreement, including service delivery, monthly reporting, and submission of their annual financial statements. Per the franchise agreement, Recology may submit a rate application annually, and the methodology for each year varies, and I have included a table in the staff report to show you the years where it's index-based versus cost-based, and that's on packet page 301. On packet page 302, up at the top, the modification percentage rate is for 2020 is a composite rate. And so it's the best calculation I can provide that reflects not only the operational adjustment, but the $1 for each commercial account and the 1.7%, I'm sorry, the $1 for each residential account and the 1.7% for each commercial account. And so that's my best estimation of what the average increase would look like. And I am available for questions if there are any.
Questions from council? Seeing no questions, we do have a card from the public. Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. First of all, I'm in favor of the increase, not because I particularly like my own bill being increased, but because I think Recology's service is a good one. I trust Lorenzo to tell me anything about numbers. And it all makes sense to me. A part of what makes sense to me, and I thought I'd put in my words because, well, I'm going to put in my words. The part that makes sense to me is the idea that before our rate was actually going down at one point. I remember when that happened. And when that happened, China was buying up our recycling from us. Recology was making money because the recycling was being purchased. So it makes sense that our rates were going down. And now we're paying a little bit more because we have to pay to have our recycling taken away. So essentially we're paying for a cleaner environment, which is something personally I enjoy about California in general, but certainly I like living in a clean community, and I like the idea of my community working toward an environmentally good place to live. So a slightly tangential thing, Jerry Hill was at Mazzetti's a short while ago, and I asked him the question because customers ask me all the time, hey, so I want to bring my recycling in to get the redemption. And so I was like, hey, Jerry, what's the state doing? Because these things, anyway, so I got this letter. Thank you for contacting me with your views regarding the closure of a number of recycling redemption centers along the peninsula and especially on the coast side on August 5th. Especially when it comes to Replanet, California's largest operator of redemption centers, closed a number of locations, severely limiting the public's access to the California Redemption CRV program. Like you, I care about having an accessible redemption system, and I understand your frustration with the recent closures. Both the Senate and the Assembly have attempted to pass legislative solutions to the issue in recent years, but shifts in the global market, read China, for the use of these materials have made it difficult. In the wake of the sudden closures, the legislature passed Assembly Bill 54. This bill allocates $5 million towards a mobile recycling program. This would be a pilot program allowing local governments to apply for grants to extend recycling and redemption opportunities in areas impacted by the recent closures. It is not a complete solution, particularly on the coast side where the problem is dire. However, to start, I vote in favor of AB 54, and it was signed into law by the governor. And presumably in 2020, they'll be continuing to work on it. So it's a big problem everywhere, and the extra $20 a month, for me, I think is a small price to pay for a clean living environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else from the public, I'll bring it back to council.
Well, we want to hear from the clerk what the official protest count was.
So following the public comment that was received, our official count of valid protests is 19.
Which is below the majority protest.
Right. And the majority number of protests that would have been needed was?
It's below the majority protest.
Yes, it is. It is.
5,000.
And Mayor, Recology, Chris Porter, the general manager of our Recology franchise, is available for any comments or questions should you desire it.
We'll see if the council would like to ask you any questions. But Deirdre first, then Sue.
Thanks, Lorenzo, and thanks, Chris, for this comprehensive report. It seems pretty cut and dry to me. The uncomfortable piece is people see rates increase and maybe they don't make any association with any of this that's happening right here. But I'd like everybody to listen loud and clear that cares about our environment. The only way this is going to change is if you change. If you stop buying plastic, you stop buying things that we throw away, it will stop being made. We will not have to throw it away. It will be like, think differently, like Bridget Duffy told us tonight. Think differently. We're going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. I'm certainly uncomfortable when I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get my daughter spaghetti in school in a reusable sandwich container. They make them, but point being, we have to think differently. It doesn't always, how do you get jelly out of those wax, those beeswax wraps, So no more plastic bags, or if you do, compostable. And, I sent a tray home of cheese with one of my wax wraps, and she's like, "But your wax wrap?" And I was like, "You use it now. I'll get another one." But these are the kinds of things. It's just like bringing your reusable bag, right? It starts with us. It starts with education. So if you don't want your rates to increase, don't buy it. If you don't need it, don't throw it away. So the point is that it was going to China. Now it's not. Who cares where it was going? This is one Earth. That's all we have. So I obviously agree with this. And Chris, I want to thank you for all of your hard work and all of your partnering in our community, your outreach and education and sponsorships and support. You're appreciated and well respected, and I appreciate the insight into all of this and hope that we can continue to socialize this information, not just, hey, it's another $1 out of my month. Explain to people how they can help make that change.
Sue.
I do have a question for Chris. And I respect if you don't have the answer, or if it's imprudent or not acceptable for you to share the information. But here's my question. Can you characterize the difference between Recology of the Coast and how it's handling its recyclables and your near competitors that may be serving other cities in our immediate vicinity?
Not naming names.
Right.
Lots of companies are limiting the recycling that they're taking now, which means that if, let's just say we stop taking a lot of the different plastics, 50% of our customers use a 20-gallon can. If we stop doing that, then people wouldn't be able to use a 20-gallon can. They'd have to go to a 32. So a lot of these materials are being landfilled. We signed an agreement with Green Waste Recovery at $20 a ton, which, believe me, was a really good rate. It took about 6 months to negotiate that contract, but part of the contract states they cannot landfill any of our recyclable materials. So to me, that was a big win for this city. This city wants that type of agreement. Some cities, and the one that I just read an article on was Portland, they stopped recycling altogether. Portland. Because there's no market. There's no market. So I don't know. I couldn't really ascertain whether it was the city that was doing it or they had an outside hauler. I think it was the city. So they could not absorb the loss, so everything goes to the landfill. So that is not a unique situation. So I'm really proud of what Recology has done to keep this material out of the landfill, to continue to educate customers on what to use, how to streamline your day-to-day activities so you don't have to use single-use products, to speak to the businesses and work with them as far as trying to streamline their waste stream. We audit the businesses. We audit 25% of the businesses on a yearly basis. And any new business that comes into town, before they open up, we go there, go through their waste, give them ideas of exactly what they're going to need, how they can compost, what should go in the recycling. So we are very hands-on. A majority of the time I go myself. Mike King is here, he's my operations manager, he goes. One of us goes personally and discusses it with the owner. If I could have this one opportunity, there's one thing that continually is being put out, misinformation regarding the rates, regarding that we're the highest rates ever. Well, I got on the phone this morning because I kept reading this weekend. So this was just on my getting on the phone today. 20-gallon can is the majority of our customers, okay? So right now we're at $23.66. So the online blogs are saying, well, you know, why can't we be in line with our neighbors? Why are we having to pay this exorbitant amount more than everyone else? Well, we're $23.66. San Bruno's $24.37. Montera's $25.26. South San Francisco's $26.67, and Daly City doesn't even offer a 20-gallon can. So what does that say? That says we're the lowest. And everybody's going to have a rate increase at the beginning of the year. So I'm not going to take this nonsense anymore that we are the highest of everyone. We're the lowest of everyone in the surrounding area. Just had to get that off my chest.
Mary?
Thank you. I think literally one of the best hours I've spent was learning from you. Seriously, people need to go in and talk to you because you can teach them so much. I did it and I learned so much from you. And, you know, it's so important that we're able to have this guaranteed recycling. And it's so scary that other places aren't able to do that. And so I really appreciate it. And can you talk a little bit about like contaminated recycling and what can we do as the public to like make sure that our recycling is clean?
Another thing I'm very proud of is Pacifica's recycling is the cleanest of all our ecology. And I think it's twofold. My guys are very conscious, and you know, you'll go around, see these orange tags on the can that they'll refuse it. And you know, then we get the phone calls, well, you know, what's going on, what's going on? But what can happen is if contaminated material gets in the can and it goes to green waste recovery, then it isn't $20 a ton. It could be as much as $70 a ton because they're having to dispose of it. So my fellow recologies, and I hope they're not listening, they get dinged for contamination. We have not had one contaminated load in over a year, not one. And I have 4 to 5 trucks a day going to the waste stream at Green Waste Recovery. So that is attributed to the customers really understanding in this town what goes in the recycling bin, as well as my guys' eagle eyes checking everything and putting the tag. So, you know, sometimes customers will think, gee, I have a 20-gallon can. I have a little bit extra this week. Maybe I can put the bag in the recycling and it'll go and nobody will catch it. My guys will catch it, believe me. 9 times out of 10, they'll catch it. And everyone remember, you get 3 bulky item pickups a year, and if you don't have a large sofa or chair or something, you could put out 5 30-gallon bags, and that's the equivalent to 1 bulky item. So sometimes people save up their extras and they'll call for a bulky and you know, just put out everything at once. So there's all alternatives to that.
Thank you so much.
Mike?
I just want to say, I also really appreciate your staff and the guys that pick up the garbage. If you drive around Daly City, they have this big claw that comes out and grabs the can, and I think maybe 3/4 of it gets in the truck and the other quarter gets on the street, and their streets are just covered with garbage on garbage day. While ours, very rarely do I have to go out in front of my house and pick up, you know, after the garbage guy. So I just wanted to say thank you to your staff and how conscientious they are as it actually gets in the truck versus the street.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for everything that you do in this town. It's massive, the amount of work that you spend helping everyone out. We all appreciate you. We're so happy to have you here. Yes. One of the things I said on, this is a change of subject, but one of the things I said on Nextdoor was how many people complained when the rates went down 9.37%. I didn't get a response. But it's true. No one complains when the rates go down. People complain when the rates go up, and only 19 people submitted. Everyone had the chance to do it, and they didn't. And I also want to thank you, see, I'm going in circles, for allowing the green waste change. The green waste used to be every other week. Now you can put out green waste every week, and that's a good thing. I have thought about it so much more than I used to. For the tree lighting, I ordered 300 compostable paper cups instead of the half-price plastic cups. But I thought it was...
You listened to me.
I thought it was the right thing to do, and that's what I did. And it is the right thing to do. So everyone can come have eggnog in our office.
Can you bring some to me?
No. Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Sorry. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that the city council adopt a resolution confirming the rate adjustment of 2.75% plus $1 per month for each residential account, or 1.7% for each commercial account per Ecology of the Coasts application for the period of January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020.
I'll second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you very much for the
May I
information.
thank council too, and just say that I was watching the proceedings at my office, and I'm appalled that anyone would come here and say that they're just going to come up here to waste the council's time, because they're wasting my time, they're wasting everyone out here's time, and there's something seriously wrong.
Thank you. Item 7 is to discuss the Sharp Park specific plan, community engagement plan, and consider appointment of 2 council members to an ad hoc subcommittee.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm Senior Planner Christian Murdoch. We're here tonight to discuss a couple of items related to the Sharp Park specific plan. The Sharp Park specific plan is one of 3 parts of Plan Pacifica, the others being the ongoing effort to update the general plan and the local coastal program. Tonight's discussion will cover the community engagement plan surrounding the Sharp Park specific plan, as well as whether to appoint an ad hoc subcommittee of the City Council to advise on community outreach matters. Staff recognizes that community involvement in developing the Sharp Park specific plan is critical. As such, we have designed the Sharp Park specific plan process to include significant opportunities for community involvement. These are summarized on packet page 323. The input opportunities generally align with significant events in development of the Sharp Park specific plan as outlined on packet page 322. The public input opportunities for the community will include a range of in-person and online events. 2 opportunities for input are ongoing, as mentioned by City Manager Woodhouse earlier this evening, and those will run through December 8th. And they include review and comment on the existing conditions report for the Sharp Park specific plan planning area, and participation in an online survey about the Sharp Park neighborhood. You can access both of these opportunities at planpacifica.org under the Participate tab. Beginning in the first quarter of 2020, we will produce another online survey, conduct a community workshop to discuss potential land use concepts for the specific plan, and then hold a joint study session with the City Council and Planning Commission to work through the land use concepts and discuss public feedback received about them. In the second quarter of 2020, we will conduct an open house to discuss the preferred plan and key strategies which will have been developed based on the public feedback and City Council direction received in the first quarter. There will also be a public comment period on the draft specific plan so the public can comment on the actual text of the document. And then we will proceed, of course, to public hearings at the Planning Commission and City Council for adoption of the Sharp Park specific plan. It is important to note as well that the community engagement for the Sharp Park specific plan builds on the important work staff has already done in the community throughout the course of 2019. And this includes the 2 Home for All community conversations on housing, and the 5 neighborhood meetings held across Pacifica last summer to kick off the Plan Pacifica process. We intend to use the full range of city outreach capabilities, including our Plan Pacifica email list, which has grown to 747 participants as of this evening, the Connect with Pacifica newsletter, Facebook and Nextdoor social media, and more traditional methods like newspaper ads and personal contacts with community members and our community partners. We believe this type of outreach has proven quite successful, as evidenced by the nearly 100 people who have already taken the online survey as of this evening about the existing conditions report. In total, staff believes there are many opportunities in various formats for the community to be involved in creation of the Sharp Park specific plan. The second part of tonight's discussion relates to possible formation of an ad hoc subcommittee of two city council members to assist with the community engagement plan for the Sharp Park specific plan. A council member recently requested that discussion of a potential subcommittee be placed on tonight's council agenda. If the City Council believes that the community engagement plan summarized on packet pages 322 through 324 should include more council member input points than already planned, then council member involvement in the Sharp Park specific plan community engagement process through an ad hoc subcommittee is one tool that could provide staff with helpful input on the best way to reach the range of stakeholders whose involvement in the process is essential. The city manager recommends that any such subcommittee be appointed to a limited term and be comprised of 2 council members selected by the entire city council to assist with the following 3 specific tasks: identifying a broad range of Sharp Park specific plan stakeholders, providing suggestions on the best methods to reach these stakeholders and encourage their participation, and amplifying the Sharp Park specific plan community involvement opportunities during their own work in the community. Because an ad hoc subcommittee would consist of less than a quorum of the council, would have a limited scope and duration, it would not be considered a legislative body under the Brown Act. Although coordinating meetings and the work of an ad hoc subcommittee would require additional staff time, this impact would be manageable, and the work of the subcommittee could result in improved public engagement results. To manage staff time impacts, the city manager recommends that ad hoc subcommittee meetings be scheduled to occur as needed during normal city business hours. Staff welcomes any input the council may have on the community engagement plan for the Sharp Park specific plan and can answer any questions the council may have about formation of an ad hoc subcommittee. Thank you.
Questions from council? Deirdre?
Oh, sorry. I just had a question about for the ad hoc subcommittee, item 3, amplifying the Sharp Park specific plan community involvement opportunities during their own work in the community. During whose own work?
The council members through their regular course of community engagement activities and their community memberships.
During the subcommittee's own work in the community?
I think we envisioned that charge for the subcommittee to mean the individual subcommittee members would speak on behalf of the subcommittee in terms of describing the upcoming community engagement opportunities, which may exist.
I think that's more the 2 subcommittee members would, through the people they know and stuff, but that's certainly every council member can send somebody in to the staff to say, hey, I think you should interview this person or this organization or whatever, is what that means. It's not just the 2 subcommittee members.
Because I feel like they're kind of the same, you're saying the same thing, just in 3 different ways. But, okay.
It's a unique skill.
I think, Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager, if I chime in on that, I think what that part of the scope of the committee is, maybe to use an analogy, it's similar to any of your committee liaison, functions where, like a library advisory committee liaison, by their work become very familiar with what's happening with the library. So when you're out in the community, and I think what we mean by during your own work in the community, it's just that your own work as a council member. When you're out in the community and you're engaging with your constituents, you will, because you're on the ad hoc subcommittee for the Sharp Park specific plan, probably be more likely to talk more details about that. Hey, you got to come to this community meeting, make sure to take the survey, plug in. So it's just that level. Certainly all council members and staff will be doing that work in their, connections with the community. Does that make sense?
Sure, in a way. So I'm just kind of want to get a little clarity around this. The liaisons currently don't advise. We just sort of liaise, right, in the true definition, which is not advisement. So under this range of specific tasks, liaising seems to be part of it, but advising does not. So would how would the council interact with the subcommittee? Would it be like a report back, or?
The analogy I used with the liaison was just related to as you're spreading information out to your constituents, and not to the work that you do with the committee that you're a liaison to. In this case, and this happened similarly, the council could request that the ad hoc committee members provide verbal reports out at council meetings as to, what the ad hoc committee is up to. So that's one mechanism for the ad hoc committee to report back to the full council. And certainly the work of the ad hoc committee, as well as the Sharp Park specific plan effort in its whole, I and staff would be providing notes and updates about that process to the full council.
So I think an easy way to look at the creation and work of an ad hoc subcommittee is, a lot of times the genesis for these ad hoc subcommittees comes from staff, because staff needs a conduit to the council in a less formal environment than a formal agendized council meeting. And so when the council is considering the creation of an ad hoc subcommittee, in essence, you are delegating authority for this ad hoc subcommittee to interact with staff. I think that is the main focus. The purpose of the ad hoc subcommittee is not to make any decisions, to not necessarily give any direction other than to assist staff with their day-to-day questions. And it is routinely required or asked of these ad hoc subcommittees, whose charter, for lack of a better word, is governed by whatever this council decides, if you do create the ad hoc subcommittee tonight, to report back to the council on their activities. They're not reporting back on actions that they've taken, because they've taken no actions. They're reporting back on their activities and keeping the council apprised of what is going on with their assistance, essentially to staff.
Okay, cool. I'm not opposed to it. I just want clarity around what we should expect if we're not on the subcommittee. Thanks.
I wanted to speak on this because I think it's a really important opportunity for us. The Sharp Park specific plan is one that has been talked about for a long time. We're in the middle of it. It's really important, and I personally appreciate the staff reports that we get at periodic points, but there's ongoing work, and unless staff has something to report to us, we're not necessarily getting a staff report. And I felt like having an opportunity for a subcommittee would enable more direct communication and in a liaison role back to the full council.
If there are no other questions, we have a card from the public. Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
And I think I put 8 where I should have put 7, so I apologize for that. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz Trolls, Big Stick of Pacifica. I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had something vaguely cohesive for my first spiel and kind of knew what I was talking about for the second one. This one, I didn't do my homework. But certain thoughts are associating themselves as I'm listening to y'all, so I thought I'd just primarily let my subconscious speak at this point, because my regular conscious is slipping. Although what Sue Beckmeyer just said made more sense in terms of what we are discussing, so thank you for that. But I heard community engagement come up a lot, and I know that a lot of the process itself kind of has been rooted in conversations that started with those Home for All presentations, which I thought was a great way to do community engagement and discussion. And that approach is kind of, I feel like, been used a couple of times, including with the UP Task Force meeting I just attended. And we were actually having a conversation afterward, me and another individual, about what we really like about the approach that form of community engagement does. And what it does is, first you hear information, raw facts, data, and then you discuss it in a civil manner with a small group of people amongst you who may or may not think the way you do, but there's a conversation, and there's a facilitator there jotting everything down, which then is a data flow that can go back to the source who will be deliberating through it all. But it's a much more positive engagement format than reading the shouting matches on social media, or for that matter, waiting until the subject comes into this room, in which it's often also shouting matches in which, again, people aren't talking to each other. They're shouting their points kind of at each other, mostly at you. And in either of those versions, it ain't much fun, whereas having a positive form of engagement in which we're actually having dialogue and communication and conversation, and then from that deriving information, because a part of that process is also questions. And my own approach to any of this is, often my questions are a lot more important than what I think a solution going into it might be, because those questions will lead me closer to what a solution actually is. So I just wanted to, because this apparently touches on that, I think, somehow eventually. That methodology, I think, is very effective for actually deriving what ultimately we really do want. And the more we have of that format, I don't know what the price tag is, but the more of that we have, the more conversations are being facilitated, the better. And thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
Well, I'm
I need to bring it back to the council for deliberation.
I'm happy to see something like this on our agenda. I'm surprised, and but I am wondering if it would cause more work for you than normal. Would it be, because I wouldn't want something to actually be a burden to you. I would want it to be actually to help you.
Well, I think certainly adding an extra activity will create more work. I think, as we indicated in the staff report, we believe it will be manageable. I think what's important to us is to have a good outcome for the Sharp Park specific plan.
Okay.
And so if the council feels an ad hoc subcommittee is one mechanism to make this process more successful, we will, as the staff, accommodate it in any way that we need to. With that said, it's not something that we initially envisioned. We think we have experience preparing a robust community engagement plan and executing it successfully, as evidenced through the Home for All and the Plan Pacifica neighborhood meetings. But we can always do better, and if the council perceives there's some gap or improvement to be had in our process, we're happy to learn from that and to work together on it.
Yes, Christian?
My question is, do we have two people on council that would like to serve on an ad hoc committee?
I'm okay doing it.
I would.
I would too. That's 3.
No.
And you can't have 3. There can't be 3.
No, there can't be 3. Cannot.
I'll nominate Sue Beckmeyer.
I'll second Sue Beckmeyer.
I'll second Sue Beckmeyer too.
Well, we actually have to decide whether we're going to have the ad hoc committee, but it's, it seems like,
I make a motion to establish an ad hoc subcommittee.
and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Please vote. Okay.
Okay.
We are going to establish an ad hoc committee. That passes 5-0. Now, the process.
I will second Councilwoman Beer's nomination of Beckmeyer.
Well, somebody needs to make a motion on who they want to appoint to the ad hoc subcommittee. So we need a motion.
Make a motion
Yes.
to nominate or to appoint Councilmember Beckmeyer to the ad hoc subcommittee for Sharp Park specific plan.
Second.
Please vote on that.
Do I vote?
Yeah, you can vote.
And that passes 5-0. Now, the next person,
Rochambeau or?
We need a motion to nominate.
The reason I'll just say is the reason I was going to do it is it's economic development, and I'm lay us on for the Economic Development Committee. So that's that. So.
Okay, I move to
Do better than that,
nominate
Mary.
Mike O'Neill to the ad hoc subcommittee.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, please vote. And that passes 5-0.
You can be the alternate.
Oh, the alternate.
Thank you.
Mayor,
And yes,
Thank you.
Could the council just state for the record that the subcommittees formed for the 3 tasks stated in the staff report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Page 6 of, packet
the,
page
su-
320.
the ad hoc committee is formed for the 3 items in item 4, 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you.
And it's also assumed that the ad hoc subcommittee will be reporting back periodically to the council on a
And the ad
report on their
hoc committee
activities.
will report back to council verbally
And have a limited duration through adoption of the Sharp Park specific plan?
and have a limited duration during the process of the Sharp Park specific plan.
Thank you.
And
Thank
offer
you.
candy at the end of each meeting.
Okay.
Candy at the meeting.
Strike that.
Noted.
Okay, thank you very much. One more. The next item is memorandum of understanding with San Mateo County for the second unit one-stop shop pilot program and receive an update on other activities related to the city council's affordable housing related priority work plan.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm Tina Wermeister, the Planning Director, and I'll present the information this evening that the mayor just summarized regarding the MOU with the county for the accessory dwelling unit one-stop shop and provide an update on other housing activities. I did want to acknowledge that Heather Peters with the County Housing Department and Jennifer Duffy with Hello Housing are here, and they don't have a presentation, but if the council has detailed questions about the one-stop shop program, they'll be happy to help answer those questions. So in August, the city was notified that it had been selected to participate in the county's second unit one-stop shop pilot program. The program will test a model of helping homeowners with second unit construction by providing technical support. 4 participating homeowners who are prepared to construct an accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, will receive no-cost support from the nonprofit program partner Hello Housing with design, permitting, and project management involved with building the second unit. The goal of the program is to determine whether this type of technical support is an effective strategy to help homeowners get across the finish line to construct their second units, to produce more housing, to develop recommendations for how Pacifica may increase or streamline second unit production based on the lessons learned through the program, and then establish a technical support model as a foundation for layering public benefits such as greater affordability of the second unit and asset building to stabilize homeownership. The ADUs created under this program must be leased at a rent affordable to the area median income level for a period of 3 years. The structure of the grant is a 1-to-1 match with the county and city each contributing $50,000 to fund the pilot program activities in Pacifica. A second component to this program is a no-cost access for 1 year to the Symbian Build online tool. This tool can be used by any property owner in Pacifica to visualize where ADUs are allowed, receive site-specific zoning regulations, sketch a site plan, and receive an explanation of the permitting process. So this is available to anyone in the community, not just those in the pilot program. And the tool would be expected to be available in early 2020. During the Home for All community conversations regarding housing, one of the most frequent comments that we received was that ADUs were seen as a good solution in Pacifica because we do have so many single-family homes, but that the permitting process was at least perceived to be confusing or difficult. So staff is happy to be able to have those conversations occur relatively recently in the community and then to be able to turn around and hopefully provide a program that addresses those comments that we heard from our community. So now I'll go ahead and just quickly go over some of the other housing activities taking place. One of the main items on the council's housing-related work plan was to adopt in-lieu fees for affordable housing, and I wanted to let you know that the city's in the process of entering into a contract with the consultant Baird & Driscoll to do that, and it's on our work plan schedule to bring back to you in early 2020 for consideration. Staff is specifically Senior Planner Murdoch is participating in the newly formed Home for All funding task force, which seeks to increase coordination among San Mateo County jurisdictions during pre-development and early development review phases in order to leverage funding to increase affordability levels at the early stage where we can do more with the money that we have. Staff continues to participate in 21 Elements and the Home for All Learning Network, which provides active participation meetings and training opportunities on the topic of housing. The city manager and planning staff have and continue to meet with the county and nonprofit staff to discuss affordable housing opportunities in Pacifica and available funding sources. We've met with the County Department of Housing staff, nonprofit partners such as Heart and HIP Housing, the Pacifica School District team working on the Odstad Workforce Housing Project, and private property owners and developers. Staff in the City Attorney's Office is preparing an ADU ordinance update in response to recent state legislation changes, and we anticipate bringing this back to the Planning Commission and the City Council by the end of February. As you're aware, there are also other housing bills that either require administrative changes to processing or require staff to at least just be aware of the bill language but do not mandate immediate action. And staff is actively attending educational opportunities to learn more about these bills, making necessary administrative changes, and discussing the bills and their potential impact to Pacifica with the City Attorney's Office. The 6th Regional Housing Needs Allocation process has begun. We're closely monitoring this process, and it's anticipated that housing allocations could increase significantly region-wide, not just for Pacifica. In previous work plans, the council expressed interest in establishing a priority development area in Sharp Park. PDAs link housing creation and public transportation with infrastructure funding. And in January, the council will consider a resolution authorizing PDA applications in Pacifica. So that's something coming up. And then finally, as was mentioned in the other item, the Plan Pacifica documents, that's the general plan, the LCP, and the Sharp Park specific plan, contain a wide range of policy direction regarding future development in Pacifica, including housing development and supportive policies. So that concludes the general update as well. The recommended action is to approve and authorize the city manager to sign the MOU with San Mateo County for the One-Stop Shop pilot program, including the contribution not to exceed $50,000, and to receive and file the update on other housing activities. I'd be happy to answer any questions, as well as our guest from the county and Hello Housing.
Mike?
In looking at the paperwork and the staff report and everything on this, this all seems well and good. However, I do, a lot of Pacifica is pretty much cookie cutter. I mean, especially in Linamar, 5,000 square foot houses, 1,050 square foot, 1,050 square foot houses, 5,000 square foot lots that are all, rectangles and stuff. And so pretty much cookie cutter. And I know there were, and maybe the county people would be able to help me, is there was another city that instead of coming up with like all this stuff, which is well and good, they came up with like 3 or 4 designs that basically the homeowner could come in, pick a design they would like in their house, in their backyard, and it's done. They just run the pipe out there and everything else. And is there going to be any funding so that Pacifica could apply and we give the homeowners that want to build an ADU 3 or 4, design models for them to choose? Is there any sort of funding for that?
Thank you for the question. I'm Heather Peters. I'm with the county's Department of Housing, and I love the way you think. The answer is yes, that work is already underway, and it is at no charge. The nonprofit Heart that was previously mentioned by staff has received a grant from GLADOR, and I'm sorry, I don't know what that stands for, but they've been granted to hire an architect. They've hired Open Scope Architecture to create exactly that. A number of plans that are designed for lots exactly as you've described, that will be available for free for any jurisdiction interested in them. And then the process will be in February, I believe they'll have the initial plans that will go out for public comment, not officially in cities, but just generally in the community, using the Home for All model, which thank you so much for acknowledging the usefulness of that tool to you. That homeowners, architects, builders, city staff can comment on how those preliminary designs might be improved. And then they'll be actually developing full construction drawings for the building part of the units, and they're actively working with cities to identify partners and staff who would be willing to give that pre-approved stamp, at least for the building, obviously with individual site work. So
Right,
that's,
I mean, there's some stuff that can't be cookie cutter, but there's a lot that can. I mean, Linamar Ranchers, there's what, maybe 4 separate designs, and they just kind of twist things around. So, okay, so that is in the works, and it looks like we might be able to take part in that. Okay, thank you for answering that question.
you're welcome.
Other questions? I have a question. I've asked you this personally, but can you explain, it says Fairmont District, and the homeowners association from Fairmont came and said that they won't allow any accessory dwelling units in there.
Sure. So actually,
Association.
part of the package of state bills that recently went through, actually, I believe, I'll look to the city attorney, but I believe prohibits an HOA from prohibiting ADUs. In absence of that, our charge is to uphold the city's codes. And so where we would, ask a homeowner to make sure you're talking to your HOA, but we would not issue a building permit just because they're in the Fairmont HOA. But that conflict, I guess, is now moot with recent state law passage.
Thank you, because those homes are definitely already designed for accessory dwelling units.
Okay.
Yes?
Well, kind of as a follow-up for that, though, is the homeowners association up there is pretty aggressive in enforcing their covenants and conditions. So isn't there something like the city of Pacifica can send a notice saying, per this state law, this is found to be illegal? Or...
Well, we don't normally get involved in enforcing those conditions related to HOAs unless we have, through our own conditions of approval, chosen to enforce certain conditions of approval. So I don't believe that, and I don't know, but the only way we would get involved in private enforcement is if we had put a condition in those HOA covenants that allowed us to enforce that provision, which I don't think we've ever done before.
Okay, but let's say this would be the opposite, okay? We issue a building permit, and we put a condition on there, some condition to the effect telling the homeowners association, you cannot enforce this restriction. I mean, back in the 50s, there was conditions you cannot sell your house to a black person, okay? Isn't this kind of similar? Is there basically saying you can't do ADUs?
We don't usually get involved in enforcement. That's a private contract.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have jurisdiction over that private contract. We will issue the building permit. So,
but I just think it's sad that that the homeowner wants to build an ADU for whatever purpose.
and the homeowner can build the ADU because that covenant is illegal.
Okay, but then,
But we're not the enforcing agency.
But then the association starts throwing liens on the property.
And we don't have any control over that.
Okay, so there's nothing we can do about
No.
that. Okay. Right. I don't know. It's just kind of sad.
Well, but if they were to do that, then their attorneys would tell them, don't do that, because if they were to bring a suit against you, you would be responsible, you would be liable for their costs and damage for imposing those liens. So, you know, it is illegal for them to do that.
Okay, all right.
If I may, this might relate to the point that Councilmember O'Neill is making, but it was mentioned that we'll be reviewing the state housing bills and some which relate to new ADU requirements. Typically, a role that the city would play would be public information and education about what changes under the new bills, whether it's related to housing general or ADUs. So, you know, through the public information vehicle, information about all those bills, HOAs not being allowed to prohibit ADUs, et cetera, could be included.
Okay, that's fine. I just would like to make it as easy for people as you can, that's all. Okay.
Mary?
I have a couple questions. You were talking about an online tool, Symbian Build.
Yes.
And so it's free for the first year, and then what happens? Does it just go away, or do we have to pay for it?
So it's free for the first year, and then we would negotiate a price. If it's a tool that our community finds valuable, we can negotiate a price to continue.
And there'll be an evaluation piece to find that out?
Yes.
Okay. And then, how's it working in other communities? How is this working in other communities?
You'll be part of the first cohort,
okay.
so you're ahead of the curve. It will be the city of Pacifica, the city of Redwood City, the city of East Palo Alto, and the unincorporated county working together. And we are first in doing the one-stop shop. There have been other jurisdictions outside of the Bay Area that have attempted similar, but not as good as ours.
Good answer. Thank you.
Very good. Sue?
My question is for Heather. It has to do with, it has to do with the fact that all construction requires work on the part of our planning department, and in as much as they are funded through our general fund and other sources, we have fees. And so my question is, when we're wanting to encourage ADU development, et cetera, is there incorporated in this process, in this one-stop process, or in other state programs that you know, or county, a way that our planning department can be, their fees, the cost of providing the services they need to provide to get this housing built can be borne not by the homeowner? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yes.
But yet paid to the planning department. In other words, bottom line, not borne by the city.
Understood. That's a great question. There are planning grants available from the state to the cities that the city can help with the updates of the ordinances and other costs associated, making it easier to build. But as far as the actual reimbursable staff time for processing the permits, there are no programs that I'm aware of currently. However, one of the new pieces of state legislation is requiring the state Housing Community Development Department to publicize grants and funding sources that may be available for that. Additionally, there's a state funding source called HOME that has just recently been made available for accessory dwelling unit purposes, but the guidelines are not finalized yet, and it's very, very vague. But we at the county are doing everything we can to wring every dime out of every place we can find it to support ADUs, and we're very grateful to have your partnership in not only this, but so much else.
In regard to Councilmember O'Neill's question, with the prefab plans, if you will, would they include ADUs that are within the home? not just accessory outside of the four walls?
No, they would have to be a detached unit because it's too much unique site
uniqueness.
thing
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
But part of the new laws that have been made even easier is that now, starting in January, a homeowner will be allowed to do both an interior junior accessory dwelling unit and an exterior backyard. So they can actually have their main home, a portion of their main home carved out as a junior unit. Junior unit is less than 500 square feet, and it can either have its own bathroom or share bathroom, and can add a little efficiency kitchen, plus the backyard units. So there's a lot of opportunity, and it's the cheapest way to do it, actually, to carve out space in existing houses.
And one other question I had was with regard to, I think it's on packet page 327. I have to be honest, I get a little lost in the conversation about 100% AMI and
Sure.
the income rates of 80 to 120% of AMI. But the gist of it, as I gather it, is the goal is to make the housing that is produced affordable. And then these paragraphs go on to talk about, yeah, but how does that work for the homeowner who's going to incur cost in the form of financing perhaps to create this housing? And can you speak to that at all, please?
I will do my best, and it is
Yeah, I know.
a bit complicated, and I appreciate it. We've had a lot of conversation around the best way to think about affordability and support homeowners who are entering into an unfamiliar market when it comes to ADU financing and construction financing. It's a new market, it's not incredibly mature, and so we've had to balance what does it cost to build an ADU, what's the debt service in order to pay for the construction loan, and what is the rent at the lowest level it can be set that would support that debt service. So that's been part of the conversation. We're also housers, and we want to make sure that we are creating opportunities for the community to be able to be affordable, for tenants to be able to enter into high opportunity neighborhoods and have affordable rents. And we did not want this program to turn into any form of rent gouging opportunity. So in a number of conversations, we came to the conclusion that we would set rent caps, and we would do so at 100% of the area median income as published by San Mateo County. And we would do that per unit size, so per studio, per one bedroom, per two bedroom. In most cases, what we've found in looking at the data is that the market rents are below that 100% AMI level as published by the county. And so we expect that the market's going to drive the rent more so than the rent cap. But the rent cap is in place as a backstop to make sure that we're being responsible and we're allowing for what this pilot is designed to do, which is to test some theories to help support the homeowners go through the process and be able to access the financing that's currently available. I think what's really important for us to share, and what I think has been a long-term goal in our discussions with the county and this ongoing partnership, is that we'd love to see that these services show up in a form that is valuable, adds value to the process, and that allows us to look at the next generation of being able to use these services to protect a deeper investment, a deeper public investment into creating ADUs for lower income homeowners, through being able to ensure that the public investment is seen all the way through fruition for that homeowner, as well as creating programs that ultimately support lower income tenants. And all of that is sort of a work in progress. This first pilot is testing the services. The second portion of this in the long-term vision is to be able to use these services to protect a bigger investment going into creating more affordable ADUs for greater use by the community.
My last comment is I appreciate very much in the staff report, and it sounds like in your approach, that the focus on equitable access to the resources and the specific intent to reach out to households that might not otherwise consider it, or it might seem out of reach, or there could be language barriers perhaps, or in other words, an opportunity by using other language outreach to really make this an inclusive program for all citizens in our area. And so I'm really excited that we're participating in this.
Great, thank you.
Done.
Motion.
I'll make a motion. Oh, did you want to say something, Sue?
no,
Okay.
that's-
I move that the city council adopt a resolution confirming the rate adjustment of 2.75% plus $1 a month for each residential account. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Oh, man.
I'm on.
Oh, that's so irritating.
Page 326.
It's all right, you know, it's late.
It's almost,
They all look alike.
They do.
and it's 10:20.
It is.
And I didn't blush just yet.
No, page 326.
We love
Getting there.
Recology, too.
We do.
Go Recology.
Okay, here I go.
Lorenzo wants to get out of here by 11.
Sorry. I move to approve and authorize the city manager to sign a memorandum of understanding with San Mateo County for the second unit one-stop shop pilot program, including a program contribution not to exceed $50,000, and receive and file the update on the other activities related to the city council's affordable housing work plan, including studying and adopting affordable housing in lieu fees.
I'll second.
Please vote.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And that passes 5-0.
Through the mayor, just real quick, I wanted
Yes.
to let you know that the county is taking interest cards for this program, so it's not, set up to go just yet. And so we will be pushing out through our channels where citizens can do that, connect with Pacifica, et cetera, in the coming months.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you.
We're going up.
Yay.
And the meeting is adjourned.
Yes.
When you